This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Graham Williams. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, edited by Laing Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg e-text link on the LibriVox catalogue page of the Canterbury Tales. The Nun's Priest's Tale. The Prologue. "Ho!" quoth the knight, "good sir, no more of this. That ye have said is right enough, I wis, and much more. For little heaviness is right enough to much folk, I guess. I say for me, it is a great disease. Whereas men have been in great wealth and ease, to hearing of their sudden fall, alas, and the contrary is joy and great solace, as when a man hath been in poor estate, and climbeth up and waxeth fortunate, and there abideth in prosperity. Such thing is gladsome, as it thinketh me, and of such thing were goodly for to tell." "Yea," quoth our host, "by St. Paul's bell, ye say right sooth. This monk hath clapped loud. He spake how fortune covered with a cloud I wot not what, and also of a tragedy right now ye heard. And pardie, no remedy it is for to bewail, nor complain that is done. And also it is pain, as ye have said, to hear of heaviness. Sir monk, no more of this, so God you bless. Your tale annoyeth all this company. Such talking is not worth a butterfly, for therein is there no sport nor game. Therefore, Sir monk, Dan Piers by your name, I pray you heartily, tell us somewhat else. For sickly ne'er clinking of your bells that on your bridle hang on every side, by heaven's king that for us all ha' died, I should ere this have fallen down for sleep, although the slough had never been so deep. Then had your tale been all told in vain. For certainly, as these clerk is saying, whereas a man may have no audience, naught helpeth it to tell his sentence. And well I wot the substance is in me, if anything shall well reported be. Sir, say somewhat of hunting, I you pray." "Nay," quoth the monk, "I have no lust to play. Now let another tell, as I have told." Then spake our host with rude speech and bold, and said unto the nunne's priest anon, "Come near, thou priest, come hither, thou Sir John. Tell us such thing as may our hearties glad. Be blithe, although thou ride upon a jade. What though thine horse be both foul and lean? If he will serve thee, reck thou not a bean. Look that thine heart be merry evermore." "Yes, host," quoth he, "so may I ride or go, but I be merry, I wis I will be blamed." And right anon his tale he hath attained, and thus he said unto us every one, this sweete priest, this goodly man, Sir John. The Nun's Priest's Tale. A poor widow, some deal estept in age, was whilom dwelling in a poor cottage beside a grove, standing in a dale. This widow, of which I telle you my tale, since thilke day that she was last a wife, in patience led a full simple life. For little was her chattel and her rent, By husbandry of such as God her sent, she found herself, and eke her daughters too. 3 large sows had she, and no more, 3 kine, and eke a sheep that hight a mall. Full sooty was her bower, and eke her hall, in which she ate full many a slender meal. Of poignant sauce knew she never a deal, no dainty morsel passed through her throat. Her diet was accordant to her coat. Repletion her made never sick. A temper diet was all her physic, and exercise, and hearty's suffisance. The gouty led her nothing for to dance, nor apoplexy shent in not her head. No wine drank she, neither white nor red. Her board was served most with white and black, milk and brown bread, in which she found no lack. Sained bacon, sometimes an egg or tway, for she was, as it were, a manner day. A yard she had, enclosed all about with stickes, and a dry ditch without, in which she had a cock, hight Chanticleer. In all the land of crowing, nas his peer. His voice was merrier than the merry organ on Massa days that in the churches gone. Well sicherer was his crowing in his lodge than is a clock or an abbey horloge. By nature he knew each ascension of the equinoctial in thilke town. For when degrees 15 were ascended, then crew he, that it might not be amended. His comb was redder than the fine coral, embattled as it were a castle wall. His bill was black, and as the jet it shone. Like azure were his legges and his tone. His nail is whiter than the lily flower, and like the burnished gold was his colour. This gentle cock had in his governance 7 hennes, for to do all his pleasance, which were his sisters and his paramours, and wondrous like to him as of colours, of which the fairest hued in the throat was called Damosella Partelote. Courteous she was, discreet and debonair, and companionable, and bare herself so fair since the day that she 7 night was old, that truely she had the heart in hold of Chanticleer, locked in every lith. He loved her so, that well was him therewith. But such a joy it was to hear them sing, when that the brightest sun began to spring, in sweet accord, my leaf is fairy in land. For at that time, as I have understand, beasties and birdies could speak and sing. And so befell that in a dawning, as Chanticleer among his wives all sat on his perch that was in the hall, and next him sat this faire Partelote, this Chanticleer gan groanen in his throat, as man that in his dream is dretched sore. And when that Partelote thus heard him roar, she was aghast, and said, "Hearted dear, what aileth you to groan in this manner? Ye be a very sleeper, fie for shame." And he answered and said thus, "Madam, I pray you that ye take it not a grief. By God, me mette I was in such mischief right now, that yet mine heart is sore affright. Now God," quoth he, "my sweven read aright, and keep my body out of foul prison. Me mette how that I roamed up and down within our yard, whereas I saw a beast was like an hound, and would have made a rest upon my body, and would have had me dead. His colour was betwixt yellow and red, and tipped was his tail, and both his ears with black. Unlike the remnant of his hairs, his snout was small, with glowing eyen tway. Oh, yet of his look, almost for fear I die. This caused me my groaning doubteless. Away, quoth she, fie on you, hearteless. Alas, quoth she, for by that God above, now have ye lost my heart and all my love. I cannot love a coward, by my faith. For certes, whatso any woman saith, we all desiren, if it mighte be, to have husbands hardy, wise, and free, and secret, and no niggard, nor no fool, nor him that is aghast of every tool, nor no aventure, by that God above. How durste ye for shame say to your love that anything might make you afeard? Have ye no man's heart, and have a beard? Alas, and can ye be aghast of sweven is? Nothing but vanity, God wot, in sweven is. Swevens engender of repletions, and oft of fume and of complexions, when humours be too abundant in a wight. Certes, this dream which ye have met to-night cometh of the great superfluity of your red cholera, pardie, which causeth folk to dreaden in their dreams of arrows, and of fire with ready beams, of ready beasties that they will them bite, of contech, and of whelpes great and light. Right as the humour of melancholy causeth full many a man in sleep to cry for fear of bullies, or of beares black, or else that black devils will them take. Of other humours could I tell also, that work in many a man in sleep much woe, that I will pass as lightly as I can. Lo, Cato, which was that so wise a man, said he not thus, ne do no force of dreams. Now, sir, quoth she, when we fly from these beams, for God is love, as take some laxative, on peril of my soul and of my life, I counsel you the best, I will not lie, that both of choler and melancholy ye purge you. And for ye shall not tarry, though in this town is no apothecary, I shall myself 2 herbies teache you, that shall be for your health and for your prow. And in our yard the herbies shall I find, the which have of their property by kind, to purge you beneath and eke above. Sire, forget not this, for God is love. Ye be full choleric of complexion, where that the sun in his ascension you find he not replete of humours hot. And if it do, I dare well lay a groat, that ye shall have a fever tertiane, or else an ague that may be your bane. A day or 2 ye shall have digestives of wormes, ere ye take your laxatives, of laurel, centaury, and fumetory, or else of elderberry that groweth there, of catapeus, or of the gaiterberries, or herb ivy growing in our yard that merry is. Pick them right as they grow, and eat them in. Be merry, husband, for your father's kin, dreade no dream. I can say you no more. Madam, quoth he, grand mercy of your lore. But natheless, as touching Dan Caton, that hath of wisdom such a great renown, though that he bad no dream is for to dread, by God, men may in Audiobookes read of many a man more of authority than ever Cato was, so may I thee. that all the reverse say of his sentence, and have well founden by experience, that dreames be significations as well of joy as tribulations, that folk enduren in this life present. There needeth make of this no argument, the very preve showeth it indeed. One of the greatest authors that men read saith thus, that whilom two fellows went on pilgrimage in a full good intent, and happened so, they came into a town where there was such a congregation of people, and eke so strait of herbergage, that they found not as much as one cottage in which they both might lodged be. Wherefore they musten of necessity, as for that night, departe company, and each of them went to his hostelry, and took his lodging, as it would fall. The one of them was lodged in a stall, far in a yard, with oxen of the plough. That other man was lodged well enow, as was his aventure or his fortune, that us governeth all, as in commune. And so befell that long ere it were day, this man mette in his bed there, as he lay, how that his fellow gan upon him call, and said, "Alas! for in an ox's stall this night shall I be murdered where I lie. Now help me, deare brother, or I die. In all a haste come to me," he said. This man out of his sleep for fear abraid, but when that he was waked out of his sleep, he turned him, and took of this no keep. He thought his dream was but a vanity. Thus twice in his sleeping dreamed he, and at the thirde time yet his fellow again came, as he thought, and said, "I am now slaw. Behold my bloody woundes deep and wide. Arise up early in the morning tide, and at the west gate of the town," quoth he, "a carty full of dung there shalt thou see, in which my body is hid privily. Do thilke cart a rosti boldely. My gold caused my murder, sooth to sayn," and told him every point how he was slain, with a full piteous face, and pale of hue. And trusty well his dream he found full true, for on the morrow, as soon as it was day, to his fellow's inn he took his way. And when that he came to this ox's stall, after his fellow he began to call. The hosteler answered him anon, and said, "Sir, your fellow is y gone, as soon as day he went out of the town." This man gan fallen in suspicion, remembering on his dreames that he met, and forth he went, no longer would he let, unto the west gate of the town, and fand a dung cart, as it went for to dung land, that was arrayed in the same wise as ye have heard the deade man devise. And with an hardy heart he gan to cry, "Vengeance and justice of this felony! My fellow murdered in this samey night, and in this cart he lies, gaping upright. I cry out on the ministers," quoth he, "that should he keep and rule this city. Haro, alas! Here lies my fellow slain." What should I more unto this tale sayn? The people out start, and cast the cart to ground, and in the middle of the dung they found the deade man, that murdered was all new. Oh, blissful God, that art so good and true, lo, how that thou bewrayest murder alway. Murder will out, that see we day by day. Murder is so loathsome and abominable to God, that is so just and reasonable, that he will not suffer it healed be, though it abide a year, or two, or three. murder will out. This is my conclusion. And right anon the ministers of the town have hent the carter, and so sore him pined, and eke the hosteler so sore engined, that they beknew their wickedness anon, and were hanged by the necky bone. Here may ye see that dreames be too dread. And certes, in the same book I read, right in the nexte chapter after this, I gabby not, so have I joy and bliss, two men that would have passed over sea for certain cause into a far country, if that the wind not hadde been contrary, that made them in a city for to tarry, that stood fell merry upon an haven side. But on a day against the eventide the wind gan change, and blew right as them lest. Jolly and glad they wented to their rest, and casted them full early for to sail. But to the one man fell a great marvail, that one of them in sleeping as he lay, he met a wondrous dream against the day. He thought a man stood by his bedde's side, and him commanded that he should abide, and said him thus: If thou tomorrow wend, thou shalt be drowned. My tale is at an end. He woke and told his fellow what he met, and prayed him his voyage for to let. As for that day, he prayed him to abide. His fellow, that lay by his bedde's side, gan for to laugh, and scorned him full fast. No dream, quoth he, may so my heart aghast, that I will let it for to do my things. Oh, I set not a straw by thy dreamings, for swevens be but vanities and japes. Men dream all day of owles and of apes, and eke of many a maze therewithal. Men dream of thing that never was nor shall. But since I see that thou wilt here abide, and thus forslothe wilfully thy tide, God wot, it rueth me, and have good day. And thus he took his leave and went his way. But ere that he had half his course sailed, I know not why, nor what mischance it ailed, but casually the ship's bottom rent, and ship and man under the water went, in sight of other shippes there beside, that with him sailed at the same tide. And therefore, fair Partelote so dear, by such examples old mayst thou lear, that no man shoulde be too reckless of dreams. For I say thee, doubteless, that many a dream full sore is for to dread. Lo, in the life of Saint Kenelm I read, that was Kenulphus' son, the noble king of Mercenric, how Kenelm met a thing, a little ere he was murdered on a day, his murder in his vision, he say. His nurse him expounded every deal his sweven, and bade him to keep him well for treason. But he was but 7 years old, and therefore little tale hath he told of any dream, so holy was his heart. By God, I had lever than my shirt that ye had read his legend as have I. Dame Partelote, I say you truly, Macrobius, that wrote the vision in Afric of the worthy Scipion, affirmeth dreames, and saith that they be warnings of thingies that men after see. And furthermore, I pray you, look ye well in the Old Testament of Daniel, if he held dreames any vanity. Read eke of Joseph, and there shall ye see whether dreams be sometimes, I say not all, warnings of thingies that shall after fall. Look of Egypt, the king, Dan Pharaoh, his baker and his butler also, whether they felt in none effect in dreams. Whoso will seek the acts of sundry remes may read of dreames many a wondrous thing. Lo, Croesus, which was of Lydia king, mette he not that he sat upon a tree, which signified he should hanged be. Lo, here Andromache, Hector his wife, that day that Hector should he lose his life, she dreamed on the night beforn how that the life of Hector should be lorn. If thilke day he went into bataille, she warned him, but it might not avail. He went forth to fight natheless, and was he slain anon of Achilles. But thilke tale is all too long to tell, and eke it is nigh day, I may not dwell. Shortly I say, as for conclusion, that I shall have of this avision adversity. And I say furthermore, that I ne tell of laxatives no store, for they be venomous, I wot it well. I them defy, I love them never a del. But let us speak of mirth, and stint all this. Madam Partelotte, so have I bliss of one thing God hath sent me largy grace. For when I see the beauty of your face, ye be so scarlet hued about your eyen, I maketh all my dready for to dien. For also sicker as in principio mulieris hominis confusio. Ha ha, madam, the sentence of this Latin is, woman is man's joy and man's bliss. For when I feel at night your softy side, albeit that I may not on you ride, for that our perch is made so narrow, alas, I am so full of joy and of solace, that I defy both sweven and eke a dream. And with that word he flew down from the beam, for it was day, and eke his hennes all, and with a chuck he gan them for to call, for he had found a corn lay in the yard. Royal he was no more afeard. He feathered Partelotte 20 time, and as oft trod her, ere that it was prime. He looked as it were a grim lion, and on his toes he roamed up and down. He deigned not to set his feet to ground. He chucked when he had a corn found, and to him ran then his wives all. Thus royal as a prince is in his hall, leave I the Chanticleer in his pasture, and after will I tell his aventure. When that the month in which the world began, that highty March, when God first maked man, was complete, and it passed were also, since March ended, 30 days and 2, befell that Chanticleer in all his pride, his 7 wives walking him beside, cast up his eyen to the brighte sun, that in the sign of Taurus had he run 20 degrees and 1, and somewhat more. He knew by kind, and by none other lore, that it was prime, and crew with blissful steven. The sun, he said, is clomben up in heaven 20 degrees and 1, and more he wis. Madam Partelotte, my world is bliss. Hearken these blissful birdies how they sing, and see the freshy flowers how they spring. Full is mine heart of revel and solace. But suddenly him fell a sorrowful case, for ever the latter end of joy is woe. God wot that worldly joy is soon ago, and if a rhetor could he fair indite, he in a chronicle might it safely write, as for a sovereign notability. Now every wise man let him hearken me. This story is all as true, I undertake, as is the book of Launcelot du Lake, that women hold in full great reverence. Now will I turn again to my sentence. A coll fox, full of sly iniquity, that in the grove had wanted yeares 3, by high imagination forecast, the same night thorough the hedges brast into the yard, where Chanticleer the fair was wont, and eke his wives, to repair. And in a bed of wortes still he lay, till it was past underne of the day, waiting his time on Chanticleer to fall, as gladly do these homicides all, that in a weighty lie to murder men. O false murderer, rouking in thy den! O new Iscariot, new Ganilion! O false dissimuler! O Greek Sinon, that broughtest Troy all utterly to sorrow! O Chanticleer, accursed be the morrow that thou into thy yard flew from the beams. Thou wert full well y-warned by thy dreams that thilke day was perilous to thee. But what that God forewot must needes be, after the opinion of certain clerkes. Witness on him that any perfect clerk is, that in school is great altercation in this matter, and great disputation, and hath been of 100,000 men. But I ne cannot bolt it to the bren, as can the holy doctor Augustine, or Boece, or the bishop Bradwardine. Whether that God is worthy for weeting straineth me needly for to do a thing, needly call I simple necessity. Or else, if free choice be granted me to do that same thing, or do it not, though God forewot it ere that it was wrought. Or if his weeting straineth never a deal, but by necessity conditionnel, I will not have to do of such materie. My tale is of a cock, as ye may hear, that took his counsel of his wife with sorrow, to walken in the yard upon the morrow that he had met the dream, as I you told. Woman's counsels be full often cold. Woman's counsel brought us first to woe, and made Adam from paradise to go, there as he was full merry and well at ease. But for I know not to whom I might displease, if I counsel of women would he blame, pass over, for I said it in my game. Read authors where they treat of such matter, and what they say of women ye may hear. These be the cocky's wordes, and not mine. I can no harm of no woman divine. Fair in the sand, to bathe her merrily, lies Partelote and all her sisters by, against the sun. And Chanticleer so free sang merrier than the mermaid in the sea. For Physiologus saith sickily, how that they singe well and merrily. And so befell that, as he cast his eye among the wortes on a butterfly, he was wary of this fox that lay full low. Nothing ne list him then for to crow, but cried anon, cock, cock, and up he start, as man that was afraid in his heart. For naturally a beast desireth flee from his contrary, if be may it see. Though he ne'er erst had soon it with his eye, this Chanticleer, when he gan him espy, he would have fled, but that the fox anon said, Gentle sir, alas, why will ye gon? Be ye afraid of me that am your friend? Now, certes, I were worse than any fiend, if I to you would harm or villainy. I am not come your counsel to espy, but truly the cause of my coming was only for to hearken how ye sing. For truly ye have as merry a steven as any angel hath that is in heaven. Therewith ye have of music more feeling than had Boece, or any that can sing. My lord your father, God his soule bless, and eke your mother of her gentleness, have in mine house been to my great ease. And certes, sir, full fain would I you please. But for men speak of singing, I will say, so may I brook well mine eyen tway, save you, I heard never man so sing, as did your father in the morning. Certes, it was of heart all that he sung. And for to make his voice the more strong, he would so pain him, that with both his eyen he must wink, so loud he would cryen, and standing on his tiptoes therewithal, and stretchy forth his necke long and small. And eke he was of such discretion, that there was no man in no region that him in song or wisdom mighty pass. I have well read in Dan Burnell the ass among his versy, how that there was a cock that for a priest's son gave him a knock upon his leg while he was young and nice, he made him for to lose his benefice. But certain, there is no comparison between the wisdom and discretion of your father and his subtlety. Now sing ye, sir, for sainted charity. Let's see, can ye your father counterfeit? This Chanticleer his wings began to beat, as man that could not his treason espy. So was he ravished with his flattery. Oh, alas, ye lordies, many a false flatterer is in your court, and many a lozenger that please you well more, by my faith, than he that soothfastness unto you saith. Read in Ecclesiast of flattery, beware ye lordies of their treachery. This Chanticleer stood high upon his toes, stretching his neck, and held his eyen close, and gan to crow loudy for the nonce, and Dan Russell the fox start up at once, and by the gorge hent Chanticleer, and on his back toward the wood him bare. For yet was there no man that him pursued. O destiny that must not be eschewed! Alas, that Chanticleer flew from the beams! Alas, his wife wrought he naught of dreams! And on a Friday fell all this mischance. O Venus, that art goddess of pleasance, since that thy servant was this Chanticleer, and in thy service did all his power more for delight than the world to multiply, why wilt thou suffer him on thy day to die? O Geoffrey, dearie master sovereign, that when thy worthy king Richard was slain with shot, complainedest his death so sore, why no had I now thy sentence and thy lore, the Friday for to chiden, as did ye? For on a Friday soothly slain was he. Then would I show you how that I could plain for Chanticleer's dread and for his pain. Certes, such cry nor lamentation was ne'er of ladies made, when Ilion was won, and Pyrrhus with his straightest sword, when he had hent King Priam by the beard and slain him, as saith us Eneidos, as maiden all the hennies in the close, when they had seen of Chanticleer the sight. But sovereignly Dame Partelote shright full louder than did Hasdrubale's wife, when that her husband had lost his life, and that the Romans had burnt Carthage. She was so full of torment and of rage, that wilfully into the fire she start, and burnt herself with a steadfast heart. O woeful hennes, right so cried ye, as when that Nero burned the city of Rome, cried the senatores' wives, for that their husbands losten all their lives. Without a guilt this Nero hath them slain. Now will I turn unto my tale again. The saily widow and her daughters too heard at these hennes cry and make a woe, and at the doors out started they anon, and saw the fox toward the wood is gone, and bare upon his back the cock away. They cried, "Out, harrow, and well away! Aha, the fox!" And after him they ran, and eke with staves many another man ran. Collar dog, and Talbot, and Garland, and Malkin with her distaff in her hand, ran cow and calf, and eke the very hogges, so feared they were for barking of the dogges, and shouting of the men and women eke. They ran so, them thought their hearts would break. They yelled as the fiendes do in hell. The duckes cried as men would them quell. The geese for fear flewen o'er the trees. Out of the hive came the swarm of bees, so hideous was the noise bendicite. Certes he, Jack Straw, and his meinie, ne made never shouties half so shrill, when that they woulden any Fleming kill, as thilke day was made upon the fox. Of brass they brought a beames, and of box, of horn and bone, in which they blew and pooped, and therewithal they shrieked and they hooped. It seemed as the heaven shoulde fall. Now, goode men, I pray you, hearken all. Lo, how fortune turneth suddenly the hope and pride eke of her enemy. This cock that lay upon the fox's back, in all his dread unto the fox he spake, and said, "Sir, if that I were as ye, yet would I say, as wisly God help me, turn ye again, ye proudy churlies all, a very pestilence upon you fall. Now am I come unto the wood's side. Maugre your head, the cock shall here abide. I will him eat in faith, and that anon." The fox answered, "In faith it shall be done." And as he spake the word, all suddenly the cock brake from his mouth deliverly, and high upon a tree he flew anon. And when the fox saw that the cock was gone, "Alas," quoth he, "O Chanticleer, alas! I have," quoth he, "done to you trespass, inasmuch as I maked you afeard, when I you hent and brought out of your yard. But, sir, I did it in no wick intent. Come down, and I shall tell you what I meant. I shall say sooth to you, God help me so." "Nay then," quoth he, "I shrew us both the two, and first I shrew myself, both blood and bones. If thou beguile me oftener than once, thou shalt no more through thy flattery do me to sing and winky with mine eye. For he that winketh when he shoulde see, all wilfully, God let him never thee." "Nay," quoth the fox, "but God give him mischance, that is so indiscreet of governance, that jangleth when that he should hold his peace." Lo, what it is for to be reckless and negligent, and trust on flattery. But ye that hold this tale a folly, as of a fox, or of a cock and hen, take the morality thereof, good men. For Saint Paul saith, that all that written is, to our doctrine it written is iwis. Take the fruit, and let the chaff be still. Now, goode God, if that it be thy will, as saith my Lord, so make us all good men, and bring us all to thy high bliss. Amen. The end of the nun's priest's tale, but there's an epilogue. The epilogue. Sir Nunny's priest, our hostess said anon, blessed be thy breech and every stone. This was a merry tale of Chanticleer. But by my truth, if thou wert secular, thou wouldest be a tready fowler right. For if thou have courage, as thou hast might, thee were need of hennies, as I ween, yea, more than 7 times 17. See what brawnies hath this gentle priest, so great a neck, and such a large a breast. He looketh as a sparrowhawk with his eyen. Him needeth not his colour for to dien with Brazil, nor with grain of Portugal. But, sir, fairy fall you for your tale. And after that he with full merry cheer said to another, as ye shall hear. End of the epilogue to the nun's priest's tale.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to find out how you can volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Alice Atwater. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Edited by D. Laing Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer, and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg eText link on the LibriVox catalog page of the Canterbury Tales. The Second Nun's Tale. The minister in Norris unto vices, which that men call in English idleness. The porter at the gate is of delices, to eschew, and by her contraire her oppress, that is to say by lawful business. Well ought we to do all our intent, lest that the fiend through idleness us hent. For he, that with his 1,000 cordes sly, continually us waiteth to be clap, when he may man in idleness espy, he can so lightly catch him in his trap, till that a man be hent right by the lap, he is not where the fiend hath him in hand. Well ought we work, and idleness withstand. And though men dreaded never for to die, yet see men well by reason doubteless, that idleness is root of sluggardy, of that there cometh never good increase, and see that sloth them holdeth in a leas, only to sleep, and for to eat and drink, and to devouren all that others swink, and for to put us from such idleness, that cause is of so great confusion. I have here done my faithful business, after the legend, in translation, right of thy glorious life and passion. Thou with thy garland wrought of rose and lily, thee mean I, maid and martyr, Saint Cecilie. And thou art the flower of virgins all, of whom that Bernard list so well to write. To thee at my beginning first I call. Thou comfort of us wretches, do me indite thy maiden's death, that won through her merit the eternal life, and o'er the fiend victory, as man may after readen in her story. Thou maid and mother, daughter of thy Son, thou well of mercy, sinful souls' cure, in whom that God of bounty chose to won. Thou humble and high o'er every creature, though noblest, so far forth our nature, that no disdain the Maker had of kind, his Son in blood and flesh to clothe and wind. Within the cloister of thy blissful sides took man's shape, the eternal love and peace, that of the trine compass, Lord, and guide is whom earth and sea and heaven out of release. I, Harry, and thou virgin Wemulus, bare of thy body, and dweltest maiden pure, the creator of every creature. Assembled is in thee magnificence, with mercy, goodness, and with such pity that thou, that art the Son of excellence, not only helpest them that pray to thee, but oftentime of thy benignity, full freely, ere that men thy help beseech, thou goest before, and art thy lives leech. Now help, thou meek and blissful fair maid, me flemed wretch in this desert of Gaul. Think on the woman Canani that said that whelpes eat some of the crummes all, that from their Lord's table by y fall, and though that I, unworthy son of Eve, be sinful, yet accept my believe. And for that faith is dead without to workes, for to worke give me wit and space, that I be quit from thenes that most dirk is. O thou, that art so fair and full of grace, be thou mine advocate in that high place, whereas withouten end is sung Hosanna, thou Christe's mother, daughter dear of Anne. And of thy light my soul in prison light, that troubled is by the contagion of my body, and also by the weight of earthly lust and false affection. O haven of refuge, O salvation of them that be in sorrow and distress, now help, for to my work I will me dress. Yet pray I you, that reade what I write, forgive me that I do no diligence, this ilka story subtilly to indite. For both have I the wordes and sentence of him that at the sainte's reverence the story wrote, and follow her legend, and pray you that you will my work amend. First will I you the name of Saint Cecilie expound, as men may in her story see. It is to say in English heaven's lily, for pure chasteness of virginity, or for she whiteness had of honesty, and green of conscience, and of good fame the sweete savour Lily was her name. Or Sicily is to say the way of blind, for she example was by good teaching, or else Cecilie, as I written find, is joined by a manner conjoining of heaven and Leah, and herein figuring the heaven is set for thought of holiness, and Leah for her lasting business. Cecilie may eke be said in this manner, wanting of blindness, for her great delight of sapience, and for her thewes clear. Or elles, lo, this maiden's name bright of heaven and Leos comes, for which by right men might her well the heaven of people call, example of good and wise workes all. For Leo's people in English is to say, and right as men may in the heavens see the sun and moon and stars every way, right so men ghostily in this maiden free, so when of faith the magnanimity, and eke the clearness whole of sapience, and sundry workes bright of excellence. And right so as these philosophers write, that heaven is swift and round and eke burning, right so was fair Cecilie the white, full swift and busy in every good working, and round and whole in good preserving, and burning ever in charity full bright. Now have I you declared what she hight. This maiden bright Cecile, as her life saith, was come of Romans, and of noble kind, and from her cradle fostered in the faith of Christ, and bare his gospel in her mind. She never ceased, as I written find, of her prayer, and God to love and dread, beseeching him to keep her maidenhead. And when this maiden should unto a man y-wedded be, that was full young of age, which that it called was Valerian, and come was the day of marriage, she, full devout and humble in her courage, under her robe of gold that sat full fair, had next her flesh y-clad her in an hair. And while the organs made melody, to God alone thus in her heart sang she, O Lord, my soul and eke my body gie unwemmed, lest that I confounded be. And for his love that died upon the tree, every second or third day she fast, I bidding in her orisons full fast. The night came, and to bedde must she gon with her husband, as it is the manner. And privily she said to him anon, "O sweet and well-beloved spouse dear, there is a counsel, and ye will hear it, which that right fain I would unto you say, so that ye swear ye will not bewray." Valerian gan fast unto her swear, that for no case nor thing that mighte be, he never should to none bewrayen her, and then at erst thus to make him saide she: "I have an angel which that loveth me, that with great love, whether I wake or sleep, is ready aye my body for to keep. And if that he may feelen out of dread, that ye may touch or love in villainy, he right anon will slay you with the deed, and in your youthe thus ye shall die. And if that ye in cleane love me guy, he will you love as me, for your cleanness, and show to you his joy and his brightness." Valerian, corrected as God would, answered again, "If I shall truste thee, let me that angel see, and him behold. And if that is a very angel be, then will I do as thou hast prayed me. And if that it a very angel be, then will I do as thou hast prayest me. And if thou love another man, forsooth, right with this sword then will I slay you both." Cecily answered anon right in this wise: "If that you list, the angel shall ye see, so that ye trow of Christ, and you baptize. Go forth to Via Appia," quoth she, "that from this towne stands but miles 3, and to the poore folkes that there dwell, say them right thus, as that I shall you tell. Tell them that I, Cecile, you to them sent, to show you the good Urban the old, for secret needes and for good intent. And when that ye Saint Urban have behold, tell him the wordes which I to you told, and when that he hath purged from you sin, then shall ye see the angel ere ye twin." Valerian is to the place gone, and right as he was taught by her learning, he found this holy old Urban anon, among the saintes' burials louding. And he anon, without tarrying, did his message, and when that he it told, Urban for joy his handes gan uphold. The teares from his eyen let he fall. "Almighty Lord, O Jesus Christ," quoth he, "sower of chaste counsel, heard of us all, the fruit of thilke seed of chastity, that thou hast sown in Sicily, take to thee, lo, like a busy bee, without a guile, thee serveth aye thine ownen thrall, Sicily. For thilke spouse, that she took but now, full like a fierce lion she sendeth here, as meek as ere was any lamb to owe." And with that word anon there gan appear an old man, clad in white clothes clear, that had a book with letters of gold in hand, and gan before Valerian to stand. Valerian, as dead, fell down for dread, when he him saw, and he uphent him tho, and on his book right thus he gan to read: "One Lord, one faith, one God withoute mo', one Christendom, one Father of all also, above in all, and over all, everywhere." These wordes all with gold y-written were. When this was read, then said this olde man: "Believest thou this, or no? Say yea or nay." "I believe all this," quoth Valerian, "for soother thing than this I dare well say, under the heaven no wight thinke may." Then vanished the old man, he wist not where, and Pope Urban him christened him right there. Valerian went home, and found Cecily within his chamber with an angel stand. This angel had of roses and of lily coronas too, the which he bare in hand. And first to Cecile, as I understand, he gave the one, and after gan he take the other to Valerian her make. "With body clean, and with unwemmed thought, keep I well these coronas too," quoth he. "From Paradise to you I have them brought, nor ever more shall they rotten be, nor lose their sweet savour, truste me. Nor ever wight shall see them with his eye, but he be chaste, and hate villainy. And thou, Valerian, for thou so soon assented hast to good counsel, also say what thee list, and thou shalt have thy boon." "I have a brother," quoth Valerian tho, "that in this world I love no man so. I pray you that my brother may have grace to know the truth, as I do in this place." The angel said, "God liketh thy request, and bothe with the palm of martyrdom ye shall come unto this blissful rest. And with that word Tiburce his brother came, and when that he the savour undernomen, which that the roses and the lilies cast, within his heart he gan to wonder fast, and said, I wonder, this time of the year, whence that sweete savour cometh so, of rose and lilies, that I smelle here. For though I had them in mine handes too, the savour might in me no deeper go. The sweeter smell, that in my heart I find, hath changed me all in another kind. Valerian said, 2 crownes here have we, snow white and rose red, that shine clear, which that thine eyen have no might to see. And as thou smellest them through my prayer, so shalt thou see them. Levy, brother dear, if it so be thou wilt without a sloth believe aright, and know the very troth. Tiburce answered, Sayest thou this to me in soothness, or in dreame hear I this? In dreames, quoth Valerian, have we be unto this time, brother mine, y-wise, but now, at erst in truth our dwelling is. How know'st thou this? Quoth Tiburce, in what wise? Quoth Valerian, that shall I thee devise. The angel of God hath me the truth y-taught, which thou shalt see, if thou wilt renie the idols, and be clean and elles not. And of the miracle of these crownes, tway Saint Ambrose in his preface list to say. Solemnly this noble doctor dear commandeth it, and saith in this manner: The palm of martyrdom for to receive, Saint Cecily, full filled of God's gift, the world and eke her chamber gan to wave. Witness Tiburce's and Cecily's shrift, to which God of his bounty woulde shift corones too, of flowers well smelling, and made his angel them the crownes bring. The maid hath brought these men to bliss above, the world hath wist what it is worth, certain, devotion of chastity to love. Then showed him Cecily all open and plain, that idols all are but a thing in vain, for they be dumb, and thereto they be deave, and charge him with his idols for to leave. Whoso that troweth not this, a beast he is, quoth this Tiburce, if that I shall not lie. And she gan kiss his breast when she heard this, and was full glad he could the truth espy. This day I take thee for mine ally, said this blissful faire maiden dear, and after that she said as ye may hear. Lo, right so as the love of Christ, quoth she, made me thy brother's wife, right in that wise anon for mine ally here take I thee. Since that thou wilt thine idols despise, go with thy brother now, and thee baptize, and make thee clean, so that thou mayst behold the angel's face, of which thy brother told. Tiburce answered and saide, Brother dear, first tell me whither I shall, and to what man. To whom, quoth he, come forth with goode cheer, I will thee lead unto the Pope Urban. To Urban, brother mine Valerian, quoth then Tiburce, wilt thou me thither lead? Methinketh that it were a wondrous deed. Meanest not that Urban, quoth he though, that is so often damned to be dead, and wans and halkes always to and fro, and dare not ones putte forth his head? Men should him brennen in a fire so red, if he were found, or if men might him spy, and us also, to bear him company. And while we seeke that divinity that is hid in heaven privily, algate burnt in this world should we be. To whom Cecily answered boldely, Men mighte dreade well and skilfully this life to lose, mine owen deare brother, if this were living only, and none other. But there is a better life in other place, that never shall be loste, dread thee not, which Godde's Son us tolde through his grace, that Father's Son which alle thinges wrought. And all that wrought is with a skilful thought, the ghost that from the Father gan proceed, hath souled them withouten any dread. By word and by miracle, high God's Son, when he was in this world, declared here, that there is other life where men may won. To whom answered Tiburce, O sister dear, saidest thou not right now in this manner, there was but one God, Lord in soothfastness, and now of three how mayst thou bear witness? That I shall tell, quoth she, ere I go. Right as a man hath sapiences three, memory, engine, and intellect also, so in one being of divinity three persons there maye right well be. Then gan she him full busily to preach of Christe's coming and his paines to teach, and many pointes of his passion, how Godde's Son in this world was withhold, to do mankind a plain remission, that was abound in sin and care as cold. All this thing she unto Tiburce told, and after that Tiburce, in good intent, with Valerian to Pope Urban he went. That thanked God, and with glad heart and light he christened him, and made him in that place perfect in his learning, and Godde's knight. And after this Tiburce got such grace, that every day he saw in time and space the angel of God, and every manner boon that be God asked, it was sped full anon. It were full hard by order for to sayn how many wonders Jesus for them wrought, but at the last, to telle short and plain, the sergeants of the town of Rome them sought, and them before Almach the prefect brought, which them opposed, and knew all their intent, and to the image of Jupiter them sent, and said, Whoso will not do sacrifice, swap off his head, this is my sentence here. Anon these martyrs, that I you devise, one Maximus, that was an officer of the prefects, and his cornicolare them hent, and when he forth the saintes lad, himself he wept for pity that he had. When Maximus had heard the saintes lore, he got him of the tournementores leave, and led them to his house without a more. And with their preaching, ere that it were eve, they gonen from the tormentors to reave, and from Maxim, and from his folk each one, the false faith to trow in God alone. Cecilia came, when it was waxen night, with priestes, that them christened all in fear, and afterward, when day was waxen light, Cecile them said with a steadfast cheer, Now, Christus own knights liefe and dear, cast all away the workes of darkness, and arme you in armor of brightness. Ye have forsooth done a great battale, your course is done, your faith have ye conserved. O, to the crown of life that may not fail, the rightful judge which that ye have served shall give it to you as ye have it deserved. And when this thing was said as I devise, men led them forth to do the sacrifice. But when they were unto the placed brought, to tell us shortly the conclusion, they would incense nor sacrifice right not, but on their knees they sette them adown, with humble heart and sad devotion, and lost both their heads in the place, their soules went to the King of grace. This Maximus, that saw this thing betide, with piteous tears told it anon right, that he their soules saw to heaven glide, with angels, full of clearness and of light, and with his word converted many a wight, for which Almachius did him to beat, with whip of lead, till he his life gan leat. Cecile him took, and buried him anon, by Tiburce and Valerian softily, within their burying place under the stone. And after this Almachius hastily bade his ministers fetchen openly Cecile, so that she might in his presence do sacrifice and Jupiter incense. But they, converted at her wise lore, wept full sore, and gave full credence unto her word, and cried more and more, Christ, Godde's Son, without a difference, is very God, this is all our sentence, that hath so good a servant him to serve, thus with one voice we trow, though we sterve. Almachius, that heard of this doing, bade fetch Cecilie, that he might her see, and elder first, lo, this was his asking. What manner woman arte thou? Quoth he. I am a gentle woman born, quoth she. I aske thee, quoth he, though it thee grieve, of thy religion and of thy believe. Ye have begun your question foolishly, quoth she, that wouldest two answers conclude in one demand. Ye ask lewdly. Almach answered to that similitude, Of whence comes thine answering so rude? Of whence? Quoth she, when that she was freined, Of conscience, and of good faith unfeigned. Almachius saide, Takest thou no heed of my power? And she him answered this, Your might, quoth she, full little is to dread, for every mortal manne's power is but like a bladder full of wind y-wise. For with a needle's point, when it is blow, may all the boast of it be laid full low. Full wrongfully begunnest thou, quoth he, and yet in wrong is thy perseverance. Know'st thou not how our mighty princes free have thus commanded and made ordinance, that every Christian wight shall have penance, but if that he his Christendom withsay, and go all quit, if he will it renay? Your princes erren, as do your nobly doth, quoth then Cecile, and with a wood sentence yet make us guilty, and it is not sooth. For ye that knowe well our innocence, for as much as we do reverence to Christ, and for we bear a Christian name, yet put on us a crime and eke a blame. But we that know thilke name so for virtuous, we may it not withsay. Almack answered, choose one of these two, do sacrifice, or Christendom renay, that thou mayest now escape by that way. At which the holy blissful faire maid gan for to laugh, and to the judge said, O judge, confused in thy nicety, wouldest thou that I renay innocence? To make me a wicked wight, quoth she. Lo, he dissimuleth here in audience, he stareth and woodeth in his advertence. To whom Almachius said, Unseely wretch, know thou not how far my might may stretch? Have not our mighty princes to me given ye both power and eke authority, to make folk to dien or to liven? Why speakest thou so proudly then to me? I speak not but steadfastly, quoth she. Not proudly, for I say as for my side, we hate deadly thilke vice of pride. And if thou dreade not sooth to hear, then will I show all openly by right, that thou hast made a full great leasing here. Thou sayest thy princes have thee given might, both for to slay and for to quick a wight. Thou that mayest not but only life bereave, thou hast none other power nor no leave. But thou mayest say, the princes have thee maked minister of death, for if thou speakest of mo thou liest, for thy power is full of naked. Do away thy boldness, said Almachius tho, and sacrifice to our gods ere thou go. I reckon not what wrong that thou me proffer, for I can suffer it as a philosopher. But these wronges may I not endure, that thou speakest of our goddess here, quoth he. Cecile answered, O nice creature, thou saidest no word, since thou spake to me, that I knew not therewith thy nicety, and that thou wert in every manner wise, a lewed officer, a vain justice. There lacketh nothing to thine outward eyen, that thou art blind, for thing that we see all that it is stone, that men may well espyen, that ilke stone God thou wilt it call. I rede thee let thine hand upon it fall, and taste it well, and stone thou shalt it find, since that thou seest not with thine eyen blind. It is a shame that the people shall so scorne thee, and laugh at thy folly, for commonly men wot it well over all, that mighty God is in his heaven high, and these images well mayst thou espy, to thee nor to themselves may not profite, for in effect they be not worth a mite. These wordes and such others saide she, and he waxed wroth, and bade men should her lead home to her house, and in her house, quotha he, burn her right in a bath with flames red. And as he bade, right so was done the deed, for in a bath they gan her fast shetten, and night and day great fire they under betten, the longe night and eke day also, for all the fire and eke the bath's heat. She sat all cold, and felt of it no woe, it made her not one droppe for to sweat, but in that bath her life she must lette, for he, Almachius, with full wick intent to slay her in the bath his sonde sent. 3 strokes in the neck he smote her tho, the tormentor, but for no manner chance he might not smite her faire neck in two, and for there was that time an ordinance, that no man should do man such penance, the 4th stroke to smite, soft or sore, this tormentor he durste do no more. But half dead, with her necke carven, there he let her lie, and on his way is went. The Christian folk, which that about her were, with sheetes have the blood full fair y hent. 3 days lived she in this torment, and never ceased them the faith to teach, that she had fostered them, she gan to preach. And them she gave her mebliss and her thing, and to the Pope Urban betook them tho, and said, I aske this of heaven's king, to have respite 3 days, and no more, to recommend to you, ere that I go, these soles low, and that I might do worch here of mine house perpetually a church. Saint Urban with his deacons privily the body fetched, and buried it by night among his other saintes honestly. Her house the church of Saint Cecilie hight, Saint Urban hallowed it, as he well might, in which unto this day, in noble wise, men do to Christ and to his saint service. End of the second Nun's Tale.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For further information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Joshua Young. homepages.nyu.edu/RJY201. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Edited by D. Laing Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg e-text on the LibriVox catalog page of the Canterbury Tales. The Canon's Yeoman's Tale. With this canon I dwelt have 7 year, and of his science am I near the near. All that I had I have lost thereby, and God wot, so have many more than I. Where I was wont to be right fresh and gay of clothing, and of other good array, now may I wear on hose upon mine head, and where my colour was both fresh and red, now is it wan, and of a leaden hue. Whoso it useth, sore shall he it rue. And of my swink yet bleared is mine eye. Lo, what advantages to multiply! That sliding science hath me made so bare, that I have no good, where that ever I fare. And yet I am indebted so thereby of gold, that I have borrowed truly, that, while I live, I shall it quite never. Let any man beware by me for ever. What manner man that casteth him thereto, if he continue, I hold his thrift y do. So help me God, thereby shall he not win, but empty his purse, and make his wits thin. And when he, through his madness and folly, hath lost his own good through juparty, then he exciteth other men thereto, to lose their good, as he himself hath do. For unto shrews joy it is and ease, to have their fellows in pain and disease. Thus was I ones learned of a clerk. Of that no charge I will speak of our work. When we be there as we shall exercise our elvish craft, we seem wonder-wise, our terms be so clergial and quaint. I blow the fire till that mine heart faint. Why should I tell in each proportion of things which that we work upon, as on 5 or 6 ounces may well be of silver or some other quantity? And busy me to tell you the names, as orpiment, burt bones, iron squams, that into powder grounden be full small, and in an earthen pot how put is all, and salt ye put in, and also pepper, before these powders that I speak of here, and well ye cover with a lamp of glass, and of much other thing which that there was, and of the pots and glasses in gluttning, that of the air might passen out no thing, and of the easy fire and smart also, which that was made, and of the care and woe that we had in our matters subliming, and in amalgaming and calcining of quicksilver called mercury crude. For all our sleights we can not conclude our orpiment and sublimed mercury, our ground litharge, eke on the porphyry of each of these of ounces a certain, not helpeth us, our labour is in vain. Nor neither our spirit's ascension, nor our matters that lie all fixed down, may in our working nothing us avail. For lost is all our labour and travail, and all the cost, a 20 devil way, is lost also which we upon it lay. There's also full many another thing that is unto our craft appertaining, though I by order them not rehearse can, because that I am a lewd man. Yet will I tell them as they come to mind, although I cannot see them in their kind, as sal, armoniac, verdigris, borass, and sundry vessels made of earth and glass, our urinals and our descennaries, phials and crosslets and sublimatories, cucurbites and alembics eke, and other such, dear enough a leak, it needeth not for to rehearse them all. Waters rubifying and bull's gall, arsenic, sal armoniac, and brimstone, and herbs could I tell eke many a one, as agremoine, valerian, and lunary, and other such, if that me list to tarry, our lamps burning both night and day to bring about our craft, if that we may. Our furnace eke of calcination, and of water's albification, unslaked lime, chalk, and glaire of any, powders diverse, ashes, dung, piss, and clay, seared poquettes, saltpetre, and vitriol, and divers fires made of wood and coal, salt tartar, alkali, salt preparate, and combust matters, and coagulate, clay made with horse and man's hair, and oil of tartar, alum, glass, barm, wort, argoil, rosselgar, and other matters imbibing. And eke of our matters incorporing, and of our silver citrination, our cementing and fermentation, our ingots, tests, and many things mo. I will tell you, as was me taught also, the 4 spirits, and the bodies 7, by order, as oft I heard my lord them neven. The first spirit quicksilver called is, the second orpiment, the third he was sal ammoniac, and the fourth brimstone. The bodies 7 eke, lo them here anon. Sol gold is, and Luna silver we thrip. Mars iron, Mercury quicksilver we clip, Saturnus lead, and Jupiter is tin, and Venus copper, by my father's kin. This cursed craft whoso will exercise, he shall no good have that met him suffice. For all the good he spendeth thereabout, he lose shall. Thereof have I no doubt. Whoso that list to utter his folly, let him come forth and learn to multiply. And every man that hath aught in his coffer, let him appear and wax a philosopher. Alscance that craft is so light to lear. Nay, nay, God wot, all be he monk or frere, priest or canon, or any other wight, though he sit at his book both day and night, in learning of this elvish nice lore, all is in vain, and pretty much more is to learn a lewd man this subtlety. Fie, speak not thereof, for it will not be. And con he letterer, or con he none, as in effect he shall it find all one. For both two, by my salvation, concluden in multiplication. Alike well, when they have all y do, this is to say, they fail both two. Yet forgot I to make rehearsal of waters corrosive, and of limile, and of bodies mollification, and also of their induration, oils, ablutions, metal fusible, to tell in all would pass in any Bible. That where is wherefore, as for the best, of all these names now will I me rest. For, as I trow, I have you told enough to raise a fiend, all look he ne'er so rough. Ah, nay, let be, the philosopher's stone, elixir called. We seek fast each one, for had we him, then were we sicker enow. And unto God of heaven I make a vow, for all our craft, when we have all y do, and all our sleight, he will not come us to. He made us spend much good, for sorrow of which almost we waxed wood, but that good hope creeped in our heart, supposing ever, though we sore smart, to be relieved by him afterward. Such supposing and hope is sharp and hard. I warn you well, it is to seeken ever. That future temps hath made men dissever, and trust thereof, from all that ever they had. Yet of that art they cannot wax sad, for unto them it is bitter sweet. So seemeth it, for had they but a sheet, which that they might wrap them in at night, and a brat to walk in by daylight, they would them sell, and spin it on this craft. They cannot stint, until no thing be laughed. And evermore, wherever that they gon, men may them know by smell of brimstone. For all the world they stinken as a goat. Their savour is so ramish and so hot, that though a man a mile from them be, the savour will infect him, trust me. Lo thus by smelling and threadbare array, if that men list, this folk they know may. And if a man will ask them privily, why they be clothed so unthriftily, they right anon will run out in his ear, and sayn, if that they espied were, men would them slay, because of their science. Lo, thus these folk betrayen innocence. Pass over this, I go my tale unto. Ere that the pot be on the fire y do, of metals, with a certain quantity, my lord them tempers, and no man but he. Now he is gone, I dare say boldly, for as men say, he can do craftily. Algate, I wot well he hath such a name, and yet full oft he runneth into blame. And know ye how, full oft it happeneth so, the pot to breaks, and farewell, all is go. These metals be of so great violence, our walls may not make them resistance. But if they were wrought of lime and stone, they pierce so, that through the wall they gon, and some of them sink down into the ground. Thus have we lost by times many a pound. And some are scattered all the floor about, some leap into the roof without doubt. Though that the fiend not in our sight him show, I trow that he be with us, that shrew, in hell, where that he is lord and sire. Is there no more woe, rancor, nor ire? When that our pot is broke, as I have said, every man chides, and holds him evil apaid. Some said it was long on the fire making, some said nay, it was on the blowing. Then was I feared, for that was mine office. Straw, quoth the third, ye be lewd and nice, it was not tempered, as it ought to be. Nay, quoth the fourth, stent and hearken me, because our fire was not y made of beech, that is the cause, and other none, so that I cannot tell whereon it was along. But well I wot great strife in us among. What, quoth my lord, there is no more to doen. Of these perils I will beware of soon. I am right sicker that the pot was crazed. Be as be may, be ye no thing amazed. As usage is, let the sweep the floor as swith. Pluck up your hearts, and be glad and blithe. The mullock on a heap he sweeped was, and on the floor he cast a canvas. And all this mullock in a sieve he throw, and sifted, and he picked many a throw. Pardy, quoth one, somewhat of our metal, yet is there here, though that we have not all. And though this thing mishapped hath as now, another time it may well be enow. We must put our good in adventure. A merchant, pardy, may not endure. Trust me well, in his prosperity, sometimes his good is drenched in the sea, and sometimes comes it safe unto land. Peace, quoth my lord, the next time I will fand, to bring our craft all in another plight. And but I do, sirs, let me have the white. There was default in somewhat, well I wot. Another said the fire was over hot, but be it hot or cold, I dare say this, that we conclude nevermore amiss. We fail alway of that which we would have, and in our madness evermore we rave. And when we be together every one, every man seemeth a Solomon. But all thing which that shineth as the gold, it is not gold, as I have heard it told. Nor every apple that is fair at eye, it is not good, whatso men clap or cry. Right so, lo, fareth it among us. He that the wisest seemeth, by Jesus, is most fool, when it cometh to the and he that seemeth truest is a thief. That shall ye know, ere that I from you wend, by that I of my tale have made an end. There was a canon of religion among us, would infect all a town, though it is as great were as was Nineveh, Rome, Alessandria, Troy, or other three. His sleights, and his infinite falseness, there could no man written, as I guess, though that he might live 1,000 year, in all this world of falseness is his peer. For in his terms he will him so wind, and speak his words in so sly a kind, when he commune shall with any wight, that he will make him doubt anon aright. But if a fiend be, as himself is, full many a man hath he beguiled ere this, and will, if that he may live any while. And yet men go and ride many a mile, him for to seek and have his acquaintance, not knowing of his false governance. And if you list to give me audience, I will it tell here in your presence. But, worshipful canons religious, ne deem not that I slander your house, although that my tale of a canon be. Of every order some shrew is, pardy, and God forbid that all a company should rue a singular man's folly. To slander you is no thing mine intent, but to correct that is amiss I meant. This tale was not only told for you, but eke for other more. Ye wot well how that amongs Christ's apostles 12 there was no traitor but Judas himself. Then why should all the remnant have blame, that guiltless were? By you I say the same, save only this, if ye will hearken me: If any Judas in your convent be, remove him betimes. I you read. If shame or loss may cause in any dread, and be no thing displeased, I pray you. But in this case hearken what I say. In London was a priest, in Unalure, that therein dwelled had many a year, which was so pleasant and so serviceable unto the wife, whereas he was at table, that she would suffer him no thing to pay for board nor clothing, when he ne'er so gay, and spending silver had he right enow, thereof no force will proceed as now, and tell forth my tale of the canon that brought this priest to confusion. This false canon came upon a day into the priest's chamber where he lay, beseeching him to lend him a certain of gold, and he would quitten him again. "Lend me a mark," quoth he, "but days 3, and at my day I will it quite thee. And if it so be that thou find me false, another day hang me up by the halse." This priest him took a mark, and that as swithe, and this canon him thanked him often sithe, and took his leave, and went forth his way, and at the 3rd day brought his money. And to the priest he took his gold again, whereof this priest was wondrous glad and fain. "Certes," quoth he, "nothing annoyeth me, to lend a man a noble or 2 or 3, or what thing were in my possession, when he so true is of condition, that in no wise he break will his day. To such a man I never can say nay." "What," quoth this canon, "should I be untrue? Nay, that were thing y fallen all of new. Truth is a thing that I will ever keep, unto the day in which that I shall creep into my grave, and else God forbid. Believe this as sicker as your creed. God thank I, and in good time be it said, that there was never man yet evil apaid for gold or silver that he to me lent, nor ever falsehood in mine heart I meant. And, sir," quoth he, "now of my privity, since ye so goodly have been unto me, and give to me so great gentleness somewhat, to quit with your kindness, I will you shew, and if you list to lear, I will you teach plainly the manner, how I can worken in philosophy. Take good heed. Ye shall well see at eye, that I will do a mastery ere I go." "Yea?" quoth the priest. "Yes, sir. And will ye so? Marry, thereof I pray you heartily." "At your commandment, sir, truly," quoth the canon, "and else God forbid, lo, how this thief could his service bed." Full sooth it is that such pro-offered service stinketh, as witness these old wise, and that full soon I will it verify in this canon, root of all treachery, that evermore delight had and gladness, such fiendly thoughts in his heart impress, how Christ's people he may to mischief bring. God keep us from his false dissimuling. What wist this priest with whom that he dealt? Nor of his harm coming he nothing felt. O silly priest, O silly innocent, with covetise anon thou shalt be blent. O graceless, full blind is thy conceit, for nothing art thou aware of the deceit, which that this foxy shapen hath to thee. His wily wrenches thou not mayest flee. Wherefore, to go to the conclusion, that referreth to thy confusion, unhappy man, anon I will me hie to tell thine unwit and thy folly, and eke the falseness of that other wretch. As far forth as that my conning will stretch, this canon was my lord, ye would ween, sir host in faith, and by the heaven's queen, it was another canon, and not he, the can an hundredfold more subtlety. He hath betrayed folks many a time, of his falseness it doloth me to rhyme, and ever when I speak of his false head, for shame of him my cheeks wax red. All gates they begin for to glow, for redness have I none, right well I know, in my visage for fumes diverse of metals, which ye have me heard rehearse, consumed have and wasted my redness. Now take heed of this canon's cursedness. "Sir," quoth he to the priest, "let your man gon for quicksilver, that we it had anon, and let him bring ounces 2 or 3, and when he comes, as fast shall ye see a wondrous thing which ye saw ne'er ere this." "Sir," quoth the priest, It shall be done he was. He bade his servant fetch him this thing, and he already was at his bidding, and went him forth, and came anon again, with this quicksilver shortly for to sayn, and took these ounces 3 to the kinnon, and he laid them well and fair down, and bade the servant coals for to bring, that he anon might go to his working. The coals right anon weren y fit, and this canon he took a crosslet out of his bosom, and showed it to the priest. This instrument, quoth he, which that thou seest, take in thine hand, and put thyself therein, of this quicksilver an ounce, and here begin, in the name of Christ, to wax a philosopher. There be full few, which that I would proffer, to show them thus such of my science. For here shall ye see by experience, that this quicksilver I will mortify, right in your sight, anon without lie, and make it as good silver and as fine, as there is any in your purse, or mine, or elsewhere, and make it malleable, and else hold me false and unable among folk for ever to appear. I have a powder here that cost me dear, shall make all good, for it is cause of all my cunning, which that I you shew shall. Void your man, and let him be thereout, and shut the door while we be about our privity, that no man us espy, while that we work in this philosophy. All as he bade fulfilled was indeed. This eke servant right anon out yede, and his mastery shut the door anon, and to their labour speedily they gone. This priest, at this cursed canon's bidding, upon the fire anon he set this thing, and blew the fire, and busied him full fast, and this canon unto the crosslet cast a powder. I know not whereof it was, he made either of chalk, either of glass, or somewhat else, was not worth a fly, to blend with this priest, and bade him hie the coals for to couch and all above the crosslet. For in token I thee love, quoth this canon, thine own hands too shall work all thing that there shall be do. Grand mercy, quoth the priest, and was full glad, and couched the coals as the canon bade. And while he busy was, this fiendly wretch, this false canon, thou foul fiend him fetch, out of his bosom took a breachen coal, in which full subtifly was made a hole, and therein put was of silver limale an ounce, and stopped was without fail. The hole was wax, to keep the limale in, and understand that this false gin was not made there, but it was made before. And other things I shall tell you more hereafterward, which that he with him be brought. Ere he came there, him to beguile he thought, and so he did, ere that they went wit, till he had turned him, could he not blin. It doleth me, when that I of him speak, of his falsehood fain would I me wreak, if I wist how, but he is here and there. He is so variant, he abides nowhere. But take heed, sirs, now for God's love. He took his coal, of which I spake above, and in his hand he bare it privily. And while the priest couched busily the coals, as I told you ere this canon said, "Friend, ye do amiss. This is not coached as it ought to be, but soon I shall amend in it," quoth he. "Now let me meddle therewith but a while, for of you have I pity, by Saint Gill. Ye be right hot, I see well how ye sweat. Have here a cloth, and wipe away the wet." And while that the priest wiped his face, this canon took his coal, with sorry grace, and laid it above on the midward of the crosslet, and blew well afterward, till that the coals began fast to brin. "Now give us drink," quoth this canon then, "and swith all shall be well, I undertake. Sit we down, and let us merry make." And when that this canon's breachen coal was burnt, all the mail out of the hole into the crosslet anon fell down. And so it must needs by reason, since it above so even couched was. But thereof wist the priest no thing. Alas! He deemed all the coals alike good, for of the sleight he nothing understood. And when this alchemister saw his time, "Rise up, Sir Priest," quoth he, "and stand by me, and for I wot well in got have ye none. Go, walk forth, and bring me a chalk stone, for I will make it of the same shape that is in a got, if I may have hap. Bring eke with you a bowl, or else a pan, full of water, and ye shall well see then how that our business shall happen prive. And yet, for ye shall have no misbelieve, nor wrong conceit of me in your absence. I will not be out of your presence, but go with you, and come with you again." The chamber door shortly for to say, and they opened and shut, and went their way, and forthwith them they carried the key, and came again without any delay. "Why should I tarry all the long day? He took the chalk, and shaped it in the wise Of an ingot, as I shall you devise. I say he took out of his own sleeve A teine of silver, evil may he chieve, Which that he was but just ounce of weight. And take heed now of his cursed sleight. He shaped his ingot in length and in brid Of this teine without any dread, Slow slyly, that the priest it not espied, And in his sleeve again he gan it hide. And from the fire he took up his matter, And in the ingot put it with merry cheer, And in the water vessel he it cast, When that him list, and bade the priest as fast, "Look what there is. Put in thine hand and grope. There shalt thou find silver, as I hope." "What, devil of hell, should it else be? Shaving of silver, silver is, pardie." He put his hand in, and took up a teine Of silver fine, and glad in every vein Was this priest, when he saw that it was so. "God's blessing, and his mother's also." "And All Hallows have ye, Sir Canon," said this priest, "and I their malison; but an ye vouchsafe to teach me This noble craft and this subtlety, I will be yours in all that ever I may," quoth the canon. "Yet will I make assay this second time, that ye may take heed, And be expert of this, and in your need Another day assay in mine absence This discipline, and this crafty science. Let take another ounce," quoth he tho, "Of quicksilver, without wordes mo', And do therewith as ye have done ere this, With that other, which that now silver is." The priest him busied, all that ev'n he can, To do as this canon, this cursed man, Commanded him, and fast he blew the fire, For to come to the effect of his desire. And this canon, right in the meanwhile, All ready was this priest eft to beguile, And for a countenance in his hand bare All Hallows stick, take keep and beware. Of silver limaile put was, as before Was in his coal, and stopped with wax well, For to keep in his limaile every deal. And while this priest was in his business, This canon with his stick gan him dress, To him anon, and his powder cast in, As he did erst. The devil out of his skin him turn, I pray to God, for his false head, For he was ever false in thought and deed. And with his stick, above the crosslet, That was ordained with that false get, He stirred the coals, till rinnet gan The wax against the fire, as every man. But he a fool be, knows well it must need, And all that in the stick was out yede, And in the crosslet hastily it fell. Now, good sirs, what will ye bet then well? When that this priest was thus beguiled again, Supposing naught but truth, sooth to sayn, He was so glad, that I can not express In no manner his mirth and his gladness, And to the canon he proffered eftsoon body and good. "Yea," quoth the canon soon, "Though poor I be, crafty thou shalt me find. I warn thee well, yet is there more behind." "Is any copper here within?" said he. "Yea, sir," the priest said, "I trow there be. Else go buy us some, and that has swithe. Now, good sir, go forth thy way and hie thee." He went his way, and with the copper came, And this canon it in his hands name, And of that copper weighed out an ounce, Too simple is my tongue to pronounce. As minister of my wit, the doubleness Of this canon, root of all cursedness, He friendly seemed to them that knew him not, But he was fiendly both in work and thought. It wearieth me to tell of his falseness, And natheless yet will I it express, To that intent men may beware thereby. And for none other cause truly, He put this copper in the crosslet, And on the fire as swithe he hath it set, And casted powder, and made the priest to blow, And in his working for to stoop low, As he did erst, and all was but a jap. Right as him list the priest he made his ape, And afterward in the ingot as he cast, And in the pan he put it at the last Of water, and in he put his own hand, And in his sleeve, as ye beforehand Heard him tell, he had a silver teine. He silly took it out, this cursed heine, Unweeting this priest of his false craft, And in the pan's bottom he it laft, And in the water rumbleth to and fro, and wondrous privily took up also the copper tein, not knowing thilke priest, and hid it, and him hint by the breast, and to him spake, and thus said in his game: "Stoop now adown, by God, ye beat to blame. Help me now, as I did you will. Put in your hand, and look what is there." This priest took up this silver tein anon, and then said the canon, "Let us gon with these 3 teens which that we have wrought to some goldsmith, and weet if they be aught. For by my faith I would not for my hood, but if they were silver fine and good, and that as swith well proved shall it be." Unto the goldsmith with these teens 3 they went anon, and put them in assay. To fire and hammer might no man say nay, but that they weren as ought to be. This sotted priest, who gladder was than he? Was never bird gladder against the day, nor nightingale in the season of May? Was never none that better list to sing, nor lady lustier in carolling, or for to speak of love and womanhead, nor knight in arms to do a hardy deed, to stand in grace of his lady dear, than had this priest his craft for to lear. And to the canon thus he spake and said: "For love of God, that for us all died, and as I may deserve it unto you, what shall this receipt cost? Tell me now." "By Our Lady," quoth this canon, "it is dear. I warn you well, that save I and Frere, in England there can no man it make." "No forth?" quoth he. "Now, sir, for God's sake, what shall I pay? Tell me, I you pray." "Ye wise," quoth he, "it is full dear, I say. Sir, at one word, if that you list it have, ye shall pay 40 pounds, so God me save, and near the friendship that ye did there thus. To me ye should pay more ye was." This priest the sum of 40 pound anon of nobles fet, and took them every one to this canon for this ilk receipt. And all his working was but fraud and deceit. "Sir priest," he said, "I keep to have no loss of my craft, for I would it were kept close. And as ye love me, keep it for if men known all my subtlety, by God, they would have so great envy. To me, because of my philosophy, I should be dead. There were no other way." "God it forbid," quoth the priest, "what ye say. Yet had I lever spend all the good which that I have, and elsewhere I would, than that ye should fall in such mischief. For your good will, sir, have ye right would prefer," quoth the canon, "and farewell, grand mercy." He went his way, and never the priest him saw after that day. And when that this priest should make an essay, at such time as he would, of this receipt, farewell, it would not be. Lo, thus begypt and beguiled was he. Thus made he his introduction, to bring folk to their destruction. Consider, sirs, how that in each estate betwixt men and gold there is debate, so far forth that unis is there none, this multiplying blent, so many a one, that in good faith I trow that it be the cause greatest of such scarcity. These philosophers speak so mistily in this craft that men cannot come thereby. For any wit that men have howadays, they may well chatter, as do these jays, but in their terms set their lust and pain. But to their purpose shall they ne'er attain. A man may lightly learn, if he have aught, to multiply, and bring his good to naught. Lo, such a lucre is the lusty game. A man's mirth it will turn all to grame, and empty also great and heavy purses, and make folk for to purchase curses of them that have thereto their good y lent. O fie for shame, they that have been brent! Alas, can they not flee the fire's heat? Ye that it use, I read that ye it let, lest ye lose all, for better than never is late. Never to thrive were too long a date. Though ye prowl aye, ye shall it never find. Ye be as bold as is Bayard the blind, that blunders forth and peril casteth none. For he is as bold to run against a stone, as for to go beside it in the way. So fare ye that multiply, I say. If that your even cannot ye see aright, look that your mind lacketh not his sight. For though you look never so broad and stare, ye shall not win a mite of that chiff. But waste in all that ye may rape and rend, withdraw the fire, lest it too fast brenne. Meddle no more with that art, I mean, for if ye do, your thrift is gone full clean. And right as swith I will you tell here what philosophers say in this matter. Lo, Thus saith Arnold of the New Town, as his rosary maketh mention. He saith right thus, without any lie: There may no man Mercury mortify, but it be with his brother's malleging. Lo, how that he, which first said this thing, of philosophers father was Hermes, he saith, how that the dragon doubtless he dieth not, but if that he be slain with his brother. And this is for to sayn, by the dragon Mercury, and none other, he understood, and brimstone by his brother, that out of Sol and Luna were he draw. And therefore, said he, take heed to my Sol, let no man busy him this art to seech, but if that he the intention and speech of philosophers understand can, and if he do, he is a lewed man. For this science and this conning, quoth he, is of the secret of secrets party. Also there was a disciple of Plato, that on a time said his master to, as his book Senior will bear witness, and this was his demand in soothfastness: Tell me the name of thilke privy stone. And Plato answered unto him anon, Take the stone that Titnos men name. Which is that? Quoth he. Magnesia is the same. Said Plato, Yea, sir, and is it thus? This is ignotum per ignatius. What is magnesia, good sir, I pray? It is a water that is made, I say, of the elements four, quoth Plato. Tell me the root, good sir, quoth he though, of that water, if that it be your will. Nay, nay, quoth Plato, certain that I knew. The philosophers sworn were every one that they should not discover it to none, nor in no book it write in no manner. For unto God it is so lief and dear, that he will not that it discovered be, but where it liketh to his deity, man for to inspire, and eke for to defend. Whom that he liketh, lo, this is the end. Then thus conclude I, since that God of heaven will not that these philosophers niven, how that a man shall come unto his stone, I read as for the best to let it gon. For whoso maketh God his adversary, as for to work any thing in contrary of his will, certes never shall he thrive, though that he multiply term of his life. And there a point, for ended is my tale. God send every good man boot of his bale. End of Canon Yeoman's Tale.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information, or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Thomas Hoover. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Edited by D. Laing Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg eText link on the LibriVox catalog page of the Canterbury Tales. The Manciple's Tale, the Prologue. Weet ye not where there stands a little town, which that ye called is Bob up and down, under the Bleat in Canterbury way? There gan our host for to jape and play, and said Sirs, what, done is in the mire? Is there no man for prayer nor for hire that will awaken our fellow behind? A thief might full rob and bind. See how he nappeth, see for cock's bones, as he would fall from his horse at once. Is that a cook of London, with mischance? Do him come forth, he knoweth his penance, for he shall tell a tale by my fay, although it be not worth a bottle of hay. Awake, thou cook, quoth he. God give thee sorrow. What aileth thee to sleep by the morrow? Hast thou had fleas all night, or art drunk? Or had thou with some queen all night y swunk, so that thou mayst not hold up thine head? The cook, that was full pale and nothing red, said to the host, So God my soul bless, as there is fallen on me such heaviness, I know not why, that me were lever sleep than the best gallon wine that is in cheap. Well, quoth the Manciple, if it may do ease to thee, Sir Cook, and to no white displease which that here rideth in this company, and that our host will of his courtesy, I will as now excuse thee of thy tale. For in good faith thy visage is full pale, thine eye in daze, soothly as me thinketh, and well I wot, thy breath full sour as stinketh, that showeth well thou art not well disposed. Of me certain thou shalt not be yglossed. See how he yawneth. Lo, this drunken wight, as though he would us swallow anon right. Hold close thy mouth, man, by thy father's kin. The devil of hell set his foot therein. Thy cursed breath infecta will us all. Fly, stinking swine, fly! Foul may thee befall. Ah, take heed, sirs, of this lusty man. Now, sweete sir, will ye joust at the fan? Thereto me thinketh ye be well ye shape. I trow that ye have drunken wine of ape, and that is when men play with a straw. And with this speech the cook waxed all raw, and on the manciple he gan nod fast for lack of speech, and down his horse him cast, whereas he lay, till that men him uptook. This was a fair chevachie of a cook. Alas, that he held him by his ladle, and ere that he again were in the saddle, there was great shoving both to and fro to lift him up, and much care and woe, so unwieldy was the silly paled ghost. And to the manciple then spake our host, "Cause that drink hath domination upon this man, by my salvation I trow he lewdly will tell his tale. For were it wine, or old or moisty ale, that he hath drunk, he speaketh in his nose, and sneezeth fast, and eke he hath a pose, he also hath to do more than enough to keep him on his capel out of the slough. And if he fall from off his capel eftsoon, then shall we alle have enough to doen in lifting up his heavy drunken course. Tell on thy tale, of him I make no force. But yet, manciple, in faith thou art too nice thus openly to reprove him of his vice. Another day he will peradventure reclaim thee, and bring thee to the lore. I mean he speak a will of smalle things, as for to pinchen at thy reckonings, that were not honest if it came to prafe. Quoth the manciple, that were a great mischief, so might he lightly bring me in the snare. Yet had I lever pay for the mare which he rides on, than he should with me strive. I will not wrathe him, so may I thrive. That I spake, I said it in my boord. And weet ye what? I have here in my gourd a draught of wine, yea, of a ripe grape, and right anon ye shall see a good jape. This cook shall drink thereof, if that I may. On pain of my life he will not say nay. And certainly, to tell it as it was, of this vessel the cook drank fast. Alas, what he needed it! He drank enough before. And when he had pooped in his horn, to the manciple he took the gourd again, and of that drink the cook was wondrous fain, and thanked him in such wise as he could. Then gan our host to laugh a wondrous loud, and said, I see well it is necessary where that we go good drink with us to carry, for that will turn rancor and disease to accord and love, and many a wrong appease. O Bacchus, Bacchus, blessed be thy names, that so canst turn an earnest into game. Worship and thank be to thy deity. Of that matter ye get no more of me. Tell on thy tale, manciple, I thee pray. Well, sir, quoth he, now hearken what I say. The Manciple's Tale. When Phoebus dwelled here in earth adown, as audiobookes make mention, he was the most lusty bachelor of all this world, and eke the best archer. He slew Python the serpent as he lay sleeping against the sun upon a day, and many another noble worthy deed he with his bow wrought, as men may read. Playen he could on every minstrelsy, and singe that it was a melody to hearen of his clear voice the sun. Certes, the king of Thebes, Amphion, that with his singing walled the city, could never sing half so well as he. Thereto he was the seemliest man that is, or was since that the world began. What needeth it his features to describe? For in this world is none so fair alive. He was therewith full filled of gentleness, of honour, and of perfect worthiness. This Phoebus, that was flower of bachelory, as well in freedom as in chivalry, for his disport and sign eke of victory of Python, so as telleth thus the story, was wont to bear in his hand a bow. Now had this Phoebus in his house a crow, which in a cage he fostered many a day, and taught it speaken, as men teach a jay. White was this crow, as is a snow-white swan, and counterfeit the speech of every man he could, when he shoulde tell a tale. Therewith in all this world no nightingale ne could by 100,000 deal sing so wondrous merrily and well. Now had this Phoebus in his house a wife, which that he loved more than his life, and night and day did ever his diligence her for to please, and do her reverence, save only, if that I the sooth shall sayn, jealous he was, and would have kept her fain. For him were loth y japed for to be, and so is every wight in such degree. But all for naught, for it availeth naught. A good wife, that is clean of work and thought, should not be kept in none await certain, and truly the labour is in vain to keep a shrew, for it will not be. This hold I for a very nicety, to spill labour for to keepe wives, thus written olde clerks in their lives. But now to purpose, as I first began. This worthy Phoebus did all that he can to please her, weening, through such pleasance, and for his manhood and his governance, that no man should have put him from her grace. But, God it wot, there may no man embrace as to distrain a thing which that nature hath naturally set in a creature. Take any bird, and put it in a cage, and do all thine intent and thy courage to foster it tenderly with meat and drink of all the dainties that thou canst bethink, and keep it all so cleanly as thou may. Although the cage of gold be never so gay, yet had this bird by 20,000-fold lever in a forest, both wild and cold, go eat worms in such wretchedness. For ever this bird will do his business, to escape out of the cage when that he may. His liberty the bird desireth aye. Let take a cat, and foster her with milk and tender flesh, and make her couch of silk, and let her see a mouse go by the wall. Anon she waveth milk and flesh and all, and every dainty that is in the house, such appetite hath she to eat the mouse. Lo, here hath kind her domination, and appetite flameth discretion. A she-wolf hath also a villain's kind, the lewedest wolf that she may find, or least of reputation, will she take in time when her lust to have a make. All these examples speak I by these men that be untrue, and nothing by women. For men have ever a liquorous appetite on lower things to perform their delight than on their wives, be they never so fair, never so true, nor so debonair. Flesh is so new-fangled with mischance, that we can in no thing have pleasance that sooneth unto virtue any while. This Phoebus, which that thought upon no guile, deceived was for all his jollity. For under him another had a she, a man of little reputation, not worth to Phoebus in comparison. The more harm is, it happens often so, of which there cometh much harm and woe. And so befell, when Phoebus was absent, his wife anon hath for her leman sent. Her leman, certes that is a knavish speech. Forgive it me, and that I you beseech. The wise Plato saith, as ye may read, the word must needs accord with the deed. If men shall tell properly a thing, the word must cousin be to the working. I am a boisterous man, right thus I say. There is no difference truly betwixt a wife that is of high degree, if of her body dishonest she be, and any poor wench, other than this, if it so be they work both amiss. But for the gentle is in estate above, she shall be called his lady and his love. And for that other is a poor woman, she shall be called his wench and his leman. And God it wot, mine owen dear brother, men lay the one as low as lies the other. Right so betwixt a titulous tyrant and an outlaw, or else a thief errant. The same I say, there is no difference. To Alexander told was this sentence. But for the tyrant is of greater might, by force of mine for to slay downright, and burn both house and home, and make all plain. Lo, therefore is he called a capitaine. For the outlaw hath but small mind, and may not do so great as harm as he, nor bring a country to so great mischief. Men call him an outlaw or a thief. But for I am a man not textual, I will not tell of text never a deal. I will go to my tale as I began. When Phoebus' wife had sent him for her leman, anon they wrought in all their lust volage. The white crow that hung aye in the cage beheld their work, and said never a word. And when that home was come Phoebus the lord, the crow sung cuckoo, cuckoo, cuckoo. What, bird, quoth Phoebus, what song singest thou now? Wert thou not once so merrily to sing, that to my heart it was a rejoicing to hear thy voice? Alas, what song is this? By God, quoth he, I sing not amiss, Phoebus, quoth he, for all thy worthiness, for all thy beauty, and all thy gentleness, for all thy song and all thy minstrelsy, for all thy waiting, bleared is thine eye with one of little reputation. Not worth to thee is in comparison the mountenance of a gnat. So may I thrive, for on thy bed thy wife I saw him swive. What will ye more? The crow told him anon, by sad tokens and by words bold, how that his wife had done her lechery, to his great shame and his great villainy, and told him oft, he saw it with his eyen. This Phoebus gan a wayward for to Ryan, him thought his wilful heart to burst in two. His bow he bent, and set therein a flow, and in his ire he hath his wife slain. This is the effect, there is no more to sayn. For sorrow of which he brake his minstrelsy, both heart and lute, gittern and psaltery, and eke he brake his arrows and his bow, and after that thus spake he to the crow. Traitor, quoth he, with tongue of scorpion thou hast me brought to my confusion. Alas, that I was wrought! Why ne'er I dead? O deare wife, O gem of lusty head, thou wert to me so sad, and eke so true. Now liest thou dead, with face pale of hue, full guiltless, that durst I swear, O eyes, of rackle hand to do foul amiss. O troubled wit, O ire reckless, thou inadvised smitest the guiltless. O wantrust, full of false suspicion, where was thy wit and thy discretion? O every man beware of rackleness, no trow no thing without a strong witness. Smite not too soon, ere that ye weet why, and be advised well and sickerly, ere ye do any execution upon your ire for suspicion. Alas, 1,000 folk hath rackle ire foully fordone, and brought them in the mire. Alas, for sorrow I will myself slee, and to the crow, O false thief, said he, I will thee quite anon thy false tale. Thou sung whilom like any nightingale. Now shalt thou, false thief, thy song forgone, and eke thy white feathers every one, nor ever in all thy life shalt thou speak. Thus shall men on a traitor be awreak. Thou and thine offspring ever shall be blake, nor ever sweet a noise shall ye make, but ever cry against the tempest and the rain, in token that through thee my wife is slain. And to the crow he start, and that anon he pulled his white feathers every one, and made him black, and reft him all his song, and eke his speech, and out at door him flung unto the devil, which I him betake. And for this cause be all crows blake. Lordings, by this ensample I you pray, beware, and take heep what that ye say. Nor telle never man in all your life how that another man hath dight his wife. He will you hate mortally certain. Dan Solomon, as wise clerk is saying, teacheth a man to keep his tongue well. But, as I said, I am not textual. But natheless, thus taught to me my dame, my son, think on a crow, in Godde's name. My son, keep well thy tongue, and keep thy friend. A wicked tongue is worse than a fiend. My sonne, from a fiend men may them bless. My son, God of his endless goodness walled a tongue with teeth, and lips eke, for man should him advise what he speak. My son, full often for too much a speech hath many a man been spilt, as clerkes teach. But for a little speech advisedly is no man shent, to speak generally. My son, thy tongue shouldest thou restrain at all a time, but when thou dost, thou pain to speak of God and honour and prayer. The first of virtue, son, if thou wilt lear, is to restrain and keep well thy tongue. Thus learne children when that they be young. My son, of much a speaking evil advised, where less a speaking had enough sufficed, cometh much harm. Thus was me told and taught, and much a speech a sinne wanteth not. Wast thou whereof a rackle tongue serveth? Right as a sword forcutteth and forcarveth an arm in two, my dear son, right so a tongue cutteth friendship all in two. A jangler is to God abominable. Read Solomon, so wise and honourable. Read David in his psalms, and read Seneca. My sons, speak not, but with thine head thou beck. Dissemble as thou wert deaf, if that thou hear a jangler speak of perilous matter. The Fleming saith, and learn if that thee lest, that little jangling causeth much arrest. My son, if thou no wicked word hast said, thee are not dreade for to be bewrayed. But he that hath missaid, I dare well sayn, he may by no way call his word again. Thing that is said, and forth it goeth, though him repent, or be he ne'er so loth. He is his thrall to whom that he hath said a tale, of which he is now evil apaid. My son, beware, and be no author new of tidings, whether they be false or true. Whereso thou come, among us high or low, keep well thy tongue, and think upon the crow. End of the Manciple's Tale.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. This is a recording by Robert Foster, Montreal, March 2006.
The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, edited by D. Laing Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg eText link on the LibriVox catalog page of the Canterbury Tales. Now for the Parson's Tale, the Prologue. By that the Manciple his tale had ended. The sun from the south line was descended so low that it was not to my sight degrees 29 as in height. 4 the clock it was then, as I guess, for 11 foot, a little more or less, my shadow was at thilke time, as there, of such feet as my length parted were in 6 feet, equal of proportion. Therewith the moon's exaltation in mean libra, gone alway ascend, as we were entering at a thorp's end, for which our host, as he was wont to gie, as in this case our jolly company, said in this wise: Lordings, every one, now lacketh us no more tales than one. Fulfilled is my sentence and my decree. I trow that we have heard of each degree. Almost fulfilled is mine ordinance. I pray to God so give him right good chance that telleth us this tale lustily. Sir priest, quoth he, art thou a vicary, or art thou a parson? Say sooth by thy fay. Be what thou be, break thou not our play, for every man, save thou, hath told his tale. Unbuckle and show us what is in thy mail, for truly me thinketh by thy cheer thou shouldest knit up well a great matter. Tell us a fable anon for cock's bones. This parson him answered all at once: Thou gettest fable none y-told for me, for Paul, that writeth unto Timothy, reproveth them that weave soothfastness, and tell fables, and such wretchedness. Why should I so draught out of my fist, when I may so weet, if that me list? For which I say, if that you list to hear morality and virtuous matter, and then what ye will give me audience, I would full fain at Christ's reverence do you pleasure lawful as I can. But trust well, I am a southern man, I cannot jest, ram rough by my letter, and God wot, rhyme hold I but little better. And therefore if you list, I will not glose, I will you tell a little tale in prose, to knit up all this feast and make an end. And Jesus for his grace wit me send to shew you the way in this voyage of thilke perfect glorious pilgrimage, that hight Jerusalem celestial. And if ye vouchsafe, anon I shall begin upon my tale, for which I pray tell your advice, I can no better say. But natheless this meditation I put it aye under correction of clerks, for I am not textual, I take but the sentence, trust me well. Therefore I make a protestation that I will stand to correction. Upon this word we have assented soon, for, as us seemed, it was for to do'n, to enden in some virtuous sentence, and for to give him space and audience, and bade our host he should to him say that all we to tell his tale him pray. Our host had the words for us all. Sir priest, quoth he, now fare you befall, say what you list, and we shall gladly hear. And with that word he said in this manner: Tell, quoth he, your meditation, but hasten you, the sun will adown, be fructuous, and that in little space, and to do well God send you his grace. And now the parson's tale. Our sweet Lord God of heaven, that no man will perish, but will that we come all to the knowledge of him, and to the blissful life that is perdurable, admonishes us by the prophet Jeremiah, that saith in this wise: Stand upon the ways, and see and ask of old paths, that is to say, of old sentences, which is the good way, and walk in that way, and ye shall find refreshing for your souls. Many be the spiritual ways that lead folk to our Lord Jesus Christ, and to the reign of glory, of which ways there is a full noble way, and full convenable, which may not fall to man nor to woman, that through sin hath misgone from the right way of Jerusalem celestial. And this way is called penitence, of which men should gladly hearken, and inquire with all their hearts, to wit, what is penitence, and whence it is called penitence, and in what manner, and in how many manners, be the actions or workings of penitence, and how many species there be of penitences, and what things appertain and behove to penitence, and what things disturb penitence. Penitence is described on the authority of Saints Ambrose, Isidore, and Gregory as the bewailing of sin that has been wrought, with the purpose never again to do that thing or any other thing which a man should bewail. For weeping and not ceasing to do the sin will not avail, though it is to be hoped that after every time that a man falls, be it ever so often, he may find grace to arise through penitence. And repentant folk that leave their sin ere sin leave them are accounted by Holy Church sure of their salvation, even though the repentance be at the last hour. There are 3 actions of penitence: that a man be baptized after he has sinned, that he do no deadly sin after receiving baptism, and that he fall into no venial sins from day to day. Thereof saith St. Augustine that penitence of good and humble folk is the penitence of every day. The species of penitence are 3. Solemn, when a man is openly expelled from Holy Church in Lent, or is compelled by Holy Church to do open penance for an open sin openly talked of in the country. Common penance, enjoined by priests in certain cases, as to go on pilgrimage naked or barefoot. And privy penance, which men do daily for private sins, of which they confess privately, and receive private penance. To very perfect penitence are behoveful and necessary 3 things: contrition of heart, confession of mouth, and satisfaction, which are fruitful penitence against delight in thinking, reckless speech, and wicked sinful works. Penitence may be likened to a tree having its root in contrition, biding itself in the heart as a tree root does in the earth. Out of this root springs a stalk that bears branches and leaves of confession and fruit of satisfaction. Of this root also springs a seed of grace, which is mother of all security, and this seed is eager and hot, and the grace of this seed springs of God through remembrance on the day of judgment and on the pains of hell. The heat of this seed is the love of God, and the desire of everlasting joy, and this heat draws the heart of man to God, and makes him hate his sin. Penance is the tree of life to them that receive it. In penance or contrition man shall understand 4 things. What is contrition? What are the causes that move a man to contrition? How he should be contrite, and what contrition availeth to the soul. Contrition is the heavy and grievous sorrow that a man receiveth in his heart for his sins, with earnest purpose to confess and do penance, and never more to sin. 6 causes ought to move a man to contrition. 1. He should remember him of his sins. 2. He should reflect that sin putteth a man in great thraldom, and all the greater the higher is the estate from which he falls. 3. He should dread the day of doom, and the horrible pains of hell. 4. The sorrowful remembrance of the good deeds that man hath omitted to do here on earth, and also the good that he hath lost, ought to make him have contrition. 5. So also ought the remembrance of the passion that our Lord Jesus Christ suffered for our sins. 6. And so ought the hope of three things, that is to say, forgiveness of sin, the gift of grace to do well, and the glory of heaven, with which God shall reward man for his good deeds. All these points the parson illustrates and enforces at length, waxing especially eloquent under the third head, and plainly setting forth the sternly realistic notions regarding future punishments that were entertained in the time of Chaucer. Certes, all the sorrow that a man might make from the beginning of the world is but a little thing at retard of the sorrow of hell. The cause why that Job calleth hell the land of darkness. For understand that he calleth it land or earth, for it is stable, and never shall fail, and dark, for he that is in hell hath default of light natural. For certes the dark light that shall come out of the fire that ever shall burn shall turn them all to pain that be in hell, for it sheweth them the horrible devils that them torment, covered with the darkness of death, that is to say, that he that is in hell shall have default of the sight of God. For certes the sight of God is the life perdurable. The darkness of death be the sins that the wretched man hath done, which that disturb him to see the face of God, right as a dark cloud doth between us and the sun. Land of misease, because there be three manner of defaults against three things that folk of this world have in this present life, that is to say, honours, delights, and riches. Against honour have they in hell shame and confusion. For well ye wot that men call honour the reverence that man doth to man. But in hell is no honour nor reverence. For certes no more reverence shall be done there to a king than to a knave. For which God saith by the prophet Jeremiah, the folk that me despise shall be in despite. Honour is also called great lordship. There shall be no wight serve other but of harm and torment. Honour is also called great dignity and highness. But in hell shall they be all fortrodden of devils. As God saith, the horrible devils shall go and come upon the heads of damned folk. And this is forasmuch as the higher that they were in this present life, the more shall they be abated and defouled in hell. Against the riches of this world shall they have misease of poverty, and this poverty shall be in four things. In default of treasure, of which David saith, the rich folk that embraced and owned all their heart to treasure of this world shall sleep in the sleeping of death, and nothing shall they find in their hands of all their treasure. And moreover, the misease of hell shall be in default of meat and drink. For God saith thus by Moses, they shall be wasted with hunger, and the birds of hell shall devour them with bitter death, and the gall of the dragon shall be their drink, and the venom of the dragon their morsels. And furthermore their misease shall be in default of clothing, for they shall be naked in body, as of clothing, save the fire in which they burn, and other filths. And naked shall they be in soul of all manner virtues, which that is the clothing of the soul. Where be then the gay robes, and the soft sheets, and the fine shirts? Lo, what saith of them the prophet Isaiah, that under them shall be strewed moths, and their covertures shall be of worms of hell. And furthermore their misease shall be in default of friends, for he is not poor that hath good friends. But there is no friend, for neither God nor any good creature shall be friend to them, and every each of them shall hate other with deadly hate. The sons and the daughters shall rebel against father and mother, and kindred against kindred, and chide and despise each other both day and night, as God saith by the prophet Micah. And the loving children, that whom love so fleshly each other, would each of them eat the other if they might. For how should they love together in the pains of hell, when they hated each other in the prosperity of this life? For trust well, their fleshly love was deadly hate, as saith the prophet David, Whoso loveth wickedness, he hateth his own soul. And whoso hateth his own soul, certes he may love none other wight in no manner. And therefore in hell is no solace, nor no friendship, but ever the more kindreds that be in hell, the more cursing, the more chiding, and the more deadly hate there is among them. And further over they shall have default of all manner delights, for certes delights be after the appetites of the five wits, as sight, hearing, smelling, savouring, and touching. But in hell their sight shall be full of darkness and of smoke, and their eyes full of tears, and their hearing full of lamenting and gnashing of teeth, as saith Jesus Christ. Their nostrils shall be full of stinking, and, as saith Isaiah the prophet, their tasting shall be full of bitter gall, and touching of all their body shall be covered with fire that never shall quench, and with worms that never shall die, as God saith by the mouth of Isaiah. And forasmuch as they shall not wane, that they may die for pain, and by death flee from pain, that may they understand in the word of Job, that saith, There is the shadow of death. Certes, a shadow hath the likeness of the thing of which it is shadowed, but the shadow is not the same thing of which it is shadowed. Right so fareth the pain of hell. It is like death for the horrible anguish. And why? For it paineth them ever as though they should die anon, but certes they shall not die. For as saith Saint Gregory, To wretched caitiffs shall be given death without death, and end without end, and default without failing. For their death shall always live, and their end shall evermore begin, and their default shall never fail. And therefore saith Saint John the Evangelist, They shall follow death, and they shall not find him, and they shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And eke Job saith, that in hell is no order of rule. And albeit that God hath created all things in right order, and nothing without order, but all things be ordered and numbered, yet nevertheless they that be damned be not in order, nor hold no order. For the earth shall bear them no fruit. For as the prophet David saith, God shall destroy the fruit of the earth as for them. Nor water shall give them no moisture, nor the air no refreshing, nor the fire no light. For as saith Saint Basil, The burning of the fire of this world shall God give in hell to them that be damned, but the light and the clearness shall be given in heaven to his children, right as the good man giveth flesh to his children, and bones to his hounds. And for they shall have no hope to escape, saith Job at last, that there shall horror and grisly dread dwell without end. Horror is always dread of harm that is to come, and this dread shall ever dwell in the hearts of them that be damned. And therefore have they lost all their hope for 7 causes. First, for God, that is their judge, shall be without mercy to them, nor they may not please him, nor none of his saints, nor they may give nothing for their ransom, nor they have no voice to speak to him, nor they may not flee from pain, nor they have no goodness in them, that they may shew to deliver them from pain. The courteous Lord Jesus Christ will that no good work be lost, for in somewhat it shall avail. But forasmuch as the good works that men do while they be in good life be all killed or deadened by sin following, and also since all the good works that men do while they be in deadly sin be utterly dead, as for to have the life perdurable, well may that man that no good works doth sing that new French song, J'ai tout perdu, mon temps et mon labour. For certes sin bereaveth a man both the goodness of nature, and eke the goodness of grace. For soothly the grace of the Holy Ghost fareth like fire, that may not be idle, For fire faileth anon as it forletteth its working, and right so grace faileth anon as it forletteth its working. Then loseth the sinful man the goodness of glory, that only is to good men that labour and work. Well may be he sorry then that oweth all his life to God, as long as he hath lived, and also as long as he shall live, that no goodness hath to pay with his debt to God, to whom he oweth all his life. For trust well he shall give account, as saith Saint Bernard, of all the goods that have been given him in his present life, and how he hath them dispended, insomuch that there shall not perish a hair of his head, nor a moment of an hour shall not perish of his time, that he shall not give thereof a reckoning. That is to say, at every time that a man eateth and drinketh more than sufficeth to the sustenance of his body, in certain he doth sin. Eke when he speaketh more than it needeth, he doth sin. Eke when he heareth not benignly the complaint of the poor. Eke when he is in health of body, and will not fast when other folk fast, without cause reasonable. Eke when he sleepeth more than needeth, or when he cometh by that occasion too late to church, or to other works of charity. Eke when he useth his wife without sovereign desire of engendure, to the honour of God, or for the intent to yield his wife his debt of his body. Eke when he will not visit the sick, or the prisoner, if he may. Eke if he love wife, or child, or other worldly thing more than reason requireth. Eke if he flatter or blandish more than he ought for any necessity. Eke if he minish or withdraw the alms of the poor. Eke if he prepare his meat more deliciously than need is, or eat it too hastily by gluttony. Eke if he talk vanities in the church or at God's service, or that he be a talker of idle words of folly or villainy, for he shall yield account of them at the day of doom. Eke when he promiseth or assureth to do things that he may not perform. Eke when that by lightness of folly he missaith or scorneth his neighbour. Eke when he hath any wicked suspicion of thing, that he wot of it no soothfastness. These things and more without number be sins, as saith Saint Augustine. Now it is necessary to tell which be deadly sins, that is to say, chieftains of sins, for as much as all they run in one leash, but in diverse manners. Now be they called chieftains, forasmuch as they be chief, and of them spring all other sins. The root of these sins, then, is pride, the general root of all harms. For of this root spring certain branches, as ire, envy, sloth, avarice, or covetousness, gluttony, and lechery. And each of these sins hath his branches and his twigs, as shall be declared in their chapters following. And though so be that no man can tell utterly the number of the twigs and of the harms that come of pride, yet will I show a part of them, as ye shall understand. There is inobedience, vaunting, hypocrisy, despot, arrogance, impudence, swelling of heart, insolence, elation, impatience, strife, contumacy, presumption, irreverence, pertinacity, vainglory, and many another twig that I cannot tell nor declare. And yet, moreover, there is a privy species of pride that waiteth first to be saluted ere he will salute, although he be less worthy than that other is, and eke he expecteth or desireth to sit or to go above him in the way, or kiss the pax, or be incensed, or go to offering before his neighbour, and such like things against his duty peradventure, but that he hath his heart and his intent in such a proud desire to be magnified and honoured before the people. Now be there two manner of prides. The one of them is within the heart of a man, and the other is without. Of which soothly these foresaid things, and more than I have said, appertain to pride that is within the heart of a man, and there be other species of pride that be without. But nevertheless the one of these species of pride is sign of the other, right as the gay bush at the tavern is sign of the wine that is in the cellar. And this is in many things, as in speech and countenance, and outrageous array of clothing. For certes, if there had been no sin in clothing, Christ would not so soon have noted and spoken of the clothing of that rich man in the Gospel. And Saint Gregory saith that precious clothing is culpable for the dearness of it, and for its softness, and for its strangeness and disguising, and for the superfluity, or for the inordinate scantness of it. Alas, may not a man see in our days the sinful costly array of clothing, and namely into such superfluity, or else into disordinate scantness? As to the first sin, in superfluity of clothing, which that maketh it so dear to the harm of the people, not only the cost of the embroidering, the disguising, indenting or barring, ounding, paling, winding, or banding, and similar waste of cloth and vanity, but there is also the costly lining or edging with fur in their gowns, so much punching of chisels to make holes, so much cutting of shears, with the superfluity in length of the foresaid gowns, trailing in the dung and in the mire, on horse and eke on foot, as well of man as of woman, that all that trailing is verily wasted, consumed, threadbare, and rotten with dung, rather than it is given to the poor, to great damage of the foresaid poor folk, and that in sundry wise, this is to say, the more that cloth is wasted, the more must it cost to the poor people for the scarceness. And furthermore, if so be that they would give such punched and dagged clothing to the poor people, it is not convenient to wear for their estate, nor sufficient to help their necessity, to keep them from the distemperance of the firmament. Upon the other side, to speak of the horrible disordinate scantness of clothing, as be these cutted slops, or hanslines, or breeches, that through their shortness cover not the shameful member of man, to wicked intent, alas, some of them show the boss, and the shape of the horrible swollen members, that seem like to the malady of hernia, in the wrapping of their hosen, and eke the buttocks of them, that fare as it were the hinder part of a she-ape in the full of the moon. And moreover the wretched swollen members that they show through disguising, in departing of their hosen in white and red, seemeth that half their shameful privy members were flayed. And if so be that they depart their hosen in other colours, as in white and blue, or white and black, or black and red, and so forth, then seemeth it by variance of colour that the half part of their privy members be corrupt by the fire of Saint Anthony, or by canker, or other such mischance. And of the hinder part of their buttocks it is full horrible to see, for certes, in that part of their body where they purge their stinking odour, that foul part show they to the people proudly, in despite honesty Jesus Christ and his friends observed to show in his life. Now as of the outrageous array of women, God wot that though the visages of some of them seem full chaste and gentle, yet notify they in their array of attire licorousness and pride. I say not that honesty, reasonable and appropriate style, and clothing of man or woman unconvenable, but certes the superfluity or disordinate scarcity of clothing is reprovable. Also the sin of their ornament or of apparel, as in things that appertain to riding, as in too many delicate horses that be holden for delight, that be so fair, fat, and costly, and also in many a vicious knave that is sustained because of them, in curious harness, as in saddles, cruppers, petrels, breastplates, bridles, covered with precious cloth, and rich bars and plates of gold and silver. For which God saith by Zechariah the prophet, I will confound the riders of such horses. These folk take little regard of the writing of God's Son of heaven, and of his harness, when he rode upon an ass, and had no other harness but the poor clothes of his disciples, nor we read not that ever he rode on any other beast. I speak this for the sin of superfluity, and not for reasonable honesty, when reason it requireth. And moreover, certes, pride is greatly notified in holding of great retinue of servants, when they be of little profit, or of right no profit, and especially when that meany is violent and harmful to the people of arrogance of high lordship, or by way of office. For certes such lords sell then their lordship to the devil of hell, when they sustain the wickedness of their meany. Or else, when these folk of low degree, as they that hold hostelries, sustain theft of their hostiliers, and that is in many manner of deceits, that manner of folk be the flies that follow the honey, or else the hounds that follow the carrion. Such foresaid folk strangle spiritually their lordships, for which thus saith David the prophet, wicked death may come unto these lordships, and God give that they may descend into hell adown. For in their houses is iniquity and shrewdness, impiety, and not God of heaven. And certes, but unless they do amendment, right as God gave his blessing to Laban by the service of Jacob, and to Pharaoh by the service of Joseph, right so God will give his condemnation to such lordships as sustain the wickedness of their servants, unless they come to amendment. Pride of the table worketh harm eke full oft, for certes rich men be called to feasts, and poor folk be put away and rebuked, also in excess of divers meats and drinks, and especially such manner bake meats and dish meats burning of wild fire, and painted and castled with paper, and similar waste, so that it is abuse to think, and eke in too great preciousness of vessel, plate, and curiosity of minstrelsy, by which a man is stirred more to the delights of luxury, if so be that he set his heart the less upon our Lord Jesus Christ. Certain it is a sin. And certainly the delights might be so great in this case that a man might easily fall by them into deadly sin. Now be there three manners of humility, as humility in heart, and another in the mouth, and the third in works. The humility in the heart is in four manners. The one is when a man holdeth himself as not worth before God of heaven. The second is when he despiseth no other man. The third is when he recketh not though men hold him not worth. The fourth is when he is not sorry for his humiliation. Also the humility of mouth is in four things: in temperate speech, in humility of speech, and when he confesseth with his own mouth that he is such as he thinketh that he is in his heart. Another is when he praiseth the bounty or goodness of another man, and nothing thereof diminisheth. Humility eke in works is in four manners. The first is when he putteth other men before him. The second is to choose the lowest place of all. The third is gladly to assent to good counsel. The fourth is to stand gladly by the judgment of his sovereign, or of him that is higher in degree. Certain, this is a great work of humility. After avarice cometh gluttony, which is express against the commandment of God. Gluttony is unmeasurable appetite to eat or to drink, or else to do in aught to the unmeasurable appetite and disordered craving to eat or drink. This sin corrupted all this world, as is well showed in the sin of Adam and of Eve. Look also what saith Saint Paul of gluttony. Many, saith he, go of which I have oft said to you, and now I say it weeping, that they be enemies of the cross of Christ, of which the end is death, and of which their stomach is their God and their glory. In confusion of them that so take delight in earthly things, he that is accustomed or addicted to the sin of gluttony, he may no sin withstand. he must be in bondage of all vices, for it is the devil's lurking place, where he hideth him in and resteth. This sin hath many species. The first is drunkenness, that is the horrible sepulture of man's reason. And therefore when a man is drunken, he hath lost his reason, and this is deadly sin. But soothly, when that a man is not wont to strong drink, and peradventure knoweth not the strength of the drink, or hath feebleness in his head, or hath laboured, through which he drinketh the more, although he be suddenly caught with drink, it is no deadly sin, but venial. The second species of gluttony is that the spirit of a man waxeth all troubled for drunkenness, and bereaveth a man the discretion of his wit. The third species of gluttony is when a man devoureth his meat, and hath no rightful manner of eating. The fourth is when through the great abundance of his meat the humours of his body be distempered. The fifth is forgetfulness by too much drinking, for which a man sometimes forgetteth by the morrow what he did at eve. In other manner be distinct the species of gluttony after St. Gregory. The first is for to eat or drink before time. The second is when a man getteth him too delicate meat or drink. The third is when men take too much over immoderately. The fourth is curiosity with great intent, pains to make and apparel prepare his meat. The fifth is for to eat too greedily. These be the 5 fingers of the devil's hand, by which he draweth folk to the sin. Against gluttony the remedy is abstinence, as saith Galen. But that I hold not meritorious, if he do it only for the health of his body. St. Augustine will that abstinence be done for virtue, and with patience. Abstinence, saith he, is little worth, but if unless a man have good will thereto, and but it be enforced by patience and by charity, and that men do it for God's sake, and in hope to have the bliss in heaven. The fellows of abstinence be temperance, that holdeth the mean in all things, also shame that esqueth all indecency, impropriety, sufficiency, that seeketh no rich meats nor drinks, nor doth no force of no outrageous appareling of meat, moderation also that restraineth by reason the unmeasurable appetite of eating, soberness also that restraineth the outrage of drink, sparing also that restraineth the delicate ease to sit long at meat. Wherefore some folk stand of their own will to eat, because they will eat at less leisure. And thou shalt shrive thee of all thy sins to one man, and not a portion to one man, and a parcel to another. That is to understand in intent to divide thy confession for shame or dread. For it is but strangling of thy soul, for certes Jesus Christ is entirely all good. In him is none imperfection, and therefore either he forgiveth all perfectly, or else not at all. I say not that, if thou be assigned to thy penitencer for a certain sin, that thou art bound to show him all the remnant of thy sins, of which thou hast been shriven of thy curate. But if it like thee, unless thou be pleased of thy humility, this is no departing or division of shrift. And I say not, where I speak of division of confession, that if thou have license to shrive thee to a discreet and an honest priest, and where thee liketh, and by the license of thy curate, that thou mayest not well shrive thee to him of all thy sins, but let no blot be behind, let no sin be untold as far as thou hast remembrance. And when thou shalt be shriven of thy curate, tell him eke all the sins that thou hast done since thou wert last shriven. This is no wicked intent of division of shrift. Also very shrift, or true confession, asketh certain conditions. First, that thou shrive thee by thy free will, not constrained, nor for shame of folk, nor for sickness, or such things. For it is reason that he that trespasseth by his free will that by his free will he confess his trespass, and that no other man tell his sin but himself, nor he shall not, nay, nor deny his sin, nor wrath him against the priest for admonishing him to leave his sin. The second condition is that thy shrift be lawful, that is to say, that shrivest thee, and eke the priest that heareth thy confession be verily in the faith of Holy Church, and that a man be not despaired of the mercy of Jesus Christ, as Cain and Judas were. And eke a man must accuse himself of his own trespass, and not another, but he shall blame and accuse himself of his own malice and of his sin, and none other. But nevertheless, if that another man be occasion or else enticer of his sin, or the estate of the person be such by which his sin is aggravated, or else that he may not plainly shrive him, but unless he tell the person with which he hath sinned, then may he tell, so that his intent be not to backbite the person, but only to declare his confession. Thou shalt not eke make no leasings or falsehoods in thy confession for humility, peradventure to say that thou hast committed and done such sins of which that thou wert never guilty. For St. Augustine saith, if that thou because of humility makest a leasing on thyself, though thou wert not in sin before, yet art thou then in sin through thy leasing. Thou must also show thy sin by thine own proper mouth, unless thou be dumb, and not by letter. For thou that hast done the sin, thou shalt have the shame of the confession. Thou shalt not paint thy confession with fair and subtle words to cover the more thy sin, for then beguilest thou thyself, and not the priest, though must tell it plainly, be it never so foul nor so horrible. Thou shalt eke shrive thee to a priest that is discreet to counsel thee, and eke thou shalt not shrive thee for vainglory, nor for hypocrisy, nor for no cause, but only for the fear of Jesus Christ and the health of thy soul. Thou shalt not run to the priest all suddenly to tell him lightly thy sin, as who telleth a jest or a tale, but advisedly and with good devotion, and generally shrive thee oft. If thou oft fall, oft arise by confession, and though thou shrive thee oftener than once of sin of which thou hast been shriven, it is more merit. And as saith St. Augustine, thou shalt have the more easily release and grace of God, both of sin and of pain. And certes once a year at the least way it is lawful to be hassled, for soothly once a year all things in the earth renew themselves. De tertia parte pointintentiae, of the third part of penitence. Now have I told you of true confession, that is the second part of penitence. The third part of penitence is satisfaction, and that standeth generally in almsdeed and bodily pain. Nor be there three manner of almsdeed: contrition of heart, where a man offereth himself to God; the second is to have pity of the default of his neighbour; the third is in giving of good counsel and comfort, ghostly and bodily, where men have need, and specially sustenance of man's food. And take heed that a man hath need of these things generally. He hath need of food, of clothing, and of lodging. He hath need of charitable counsel, and visiting in prison and malady, and sepulture of his dead body. And if thou mayest not visit the needful with thy person, visit them by thy message and by thy gifts. These be generally alms or works of charity of them that have temporal riches or discretion in counselling. Of these works shalt thou hear at the day of doom. This alms shouldest thou do of thine own proper things, and promptly, and secretly, if thou mayest. But nevertheless, if thou mayest not do it privily, thou shalt not forbear to do alms, though men see it, so that it be not done for thank of the world, but only for thank of Jesus Christ. For as witnesseth St. Matthew chapter 5, a city may not be hid that is set on a mountain, Nor men light not a lantern and put it under a bushel, but men set it on a candlestick to light the men in the house. Right so shall your lighten before men, that they may see your good works and glorify your Father that is in heaven. Now as to speak of bodily pain, it is in prayer, in watchings, in fastings, and in virtuous teachings. Of orisons ye shall understand that orisons or prayers is to say a piteous will of heart, that redresseth it in God and expresseth it by the word outward, to remove harms, and to have things spiritual and durable, and sometimes temporal things. Of which orisons, certes in the orison of the Pater Noster, hath our Lord Jesus Christ enclosed most things. Certes, it is privileged of three things in its dignity, for which it is more worthy than any other prayer. For Jesus Christ himself made it, and it is short, in order it should be coud the more lightly, be more easily conned or learned, and to withhold or retain it in more easily in the heart, and help himself the oftener with this orison. And for a man should be the less weary to say it, and for a man may not excuse him to learn it, it is so short and so easy, and for it comprehendeth in itself all good prayers. The exposition of this holy prayer, that is so excellent and so divine, I commit to these masters of theology. Save thus much will I say, when thou prayest that God should forgive thee thy guilts, as thou forgivest them that they guilt to thee, be full well ware that thou be not out of charity. This holy orison lesseneth eke venial sin, and therefore it appertaineth specially to penitence. This prayer must be truly said and in very faith, and that men pray to God ordinately, discreetly, and devoutly. And always a man shall put his will to be subject to the will of God. This orison must eke be said that with great humbleness, and full pure and honestly, and not to the annoyance of any man or woman. It must eke be continued with the works of charity. It availeth against the vices of the soul, for as saith Saint Jerome, by fasting be saved the vices of the flesh, and by prayer the vices of the soul. After this, thou shalt understand that bodily pain stands in watching, for Jesus saith, Wake and pray that ye enter not into temptation. Ye shall understand also that fasting stands in three things: in forbearing of bodily meat and drink, and in forbearing of worldly jollity, and in forbearing of deadly sin. This is to say that a man shall keep him from deadly sin in all that he may. And thou shalt understand eke that God ordained fasting, and to fasting appertain four things: generosity to poor folk, gladness of heart spiritual, not to be angry, nor annoyed, nor grudge for the fasteth, and also reasonable hour for to eat by measure. That is to say, a man should not eat out of time, nor sit the longer at his meal because he fasteth. Then shalt thou understand that bodily pain standeth in discipline, or teaching, by word, or by writing, or by ensample. Also in wearing of haircloth, or of coarse hempen cloth, or of male shirts on their naked flesh for Christ's sake. But wear thee well that such manner penance of thy flesh make not thine heart bitter or angry, nor annoyed of thyself. For better is to cast away thine hair than to cast away the sweetness of our Lord Jesus Christ. And therefore saith Saint Paul, Clothe you, as they that be chosen of God in heart, with compassion, gentleness, patience, and such manner of clothing, of which Jesus Christ is more better pleased, than of hairs or of hauberks. Then is discipline eke in knocking of thy breast, in scourging with rods, in kneelings, and tribulations, and suffering patiently wrongs that be done to him, and eke in patient sufferance of maladies, or losing of worldly chattels, or of wife, or of child, or of other friends. Then shalt thou understand which things disturb penance, and this is in four things, that is dread, shame, hope, and one hope, that is desperation. And for to speak first of dread, for which he weeneth that he may suffer no penance, thereagainst is remedy for to think that bodily penance is but short and little at the regard or in comparison with the pain of hell, that is so cruel and so long that it lasteth without end. Now against the shame that a man hath to shrive him, and specially these hypocrites that would be holden so perfect that they have no need to shrive them, against that shame should a man think that by way of reason he that hath not been ashamed to do foul things, certes he ought not to be ashamed to do fair things, and that is confession. A man should eke think that God seeth and knoweth all thy thoughts and all thy works. To him may nothing be hid nor covered. Men should eke remember them of the shame that is to come at the day of doom to them that be not penitent and shriven in this present life. For all the creatures in heaven and in earth and in hell shall see openly all that he hideth in this world. Now for to speak of them that be so negligent and slow to shrive them, that stands in two manners. The one is that he hopeth to live long, and to acquire much riches for his delight, and then he will shrive him, and as he saith, he may, as him seemeth, timely enough come to shrift. Another is the presumption that he hath in Christ's mercy. Against the first vice he shall think that our life is no sickerness, security, and eke that all the riches in this world will be in adventure, and pass as a shadow on the wall, and as saith Saint Gregory, that it appertaineth to the great righteousness of God, that never shall the pain cease of them that never would withdraw them from sin. Their thanks with their good will, but I continue in sin. For that perpetual will to do sin shall they have perpetual pain. Despair is in two kinds. The first despair, or one hope, is in the mercy of God. The other is that they think they might not long persevere in goodness. The first one hope cometh of that he deemeth that he sinned so highly and so often, so long hath lain in sin, that he shall not be saved. Certes against that cursed one hope should he think that the passion of Jesus Christ is more strong for to unbind than sin is strong for to bind. Against the second one hope he shall think that as oft as he falleth he may arise again by penitence. And though he never so long hath lain in sin, the mercy of Christ is always ready to receive him to mercy. Against the one hope that he thinketh he should not long persevere in goodness, he shall think that the feebleness of the devil may nothing do, unless men will suffer him. And eke he shall have strength of the help of God, and of all holy church, and of the protection of angels, if him list. Then shall men understand what is the fruit of penance, and after the word of Jesus Christ it is the endless bliss of heaven, where joy hath no contrariety of woe, nor of penance, nor grievance. There all harms be past of this present life, there as is the security from the pain of hell, there as is the blissful company that rejoice them evermore each of the other's joy, there as the body of man that whilom was foul and dark is more clear than the sun, there as the body of man that whilom was sick and frail, feeble, and mortal is immortal, and so strong and so whole that there may nothing impair or injure it. There is neither hunger nor thirst nor cold, but every soul replenished with the sight of the perfect knowing of God. This blissful kingdom may men purchase by poverty spiritual, and the glory by lowliness, the plenty of joy by hunger and thirst, the rest by travail, and the life by death and mortification of sin, to which life he us bring that bought us with his precious blood. Amen. And that is the end of Chaucer's The Person's Tale.
This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For further information or to volunteer, please go to LibriVox.org. Recorded by Gesine. The Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer. Edited by D. Laing Purves. This reading is based on the book The Canterbury Tales and Other Poems. The original text contains poems by Chaucer and a lot of notes and explanations by the editor. To view these, please click on the Gutenberg e-text link on the LibriVox catalogue page of the Canterbury Tales. Prayers to Chaucer. Prayer of Chaucer. Now I pray to you all that hear this little treatise or read it, that if there be anything in it that likes them, that thereof they thank our Lord Jesus Christ, of whom proceedeth all wit and all goodness. And if there be anything that displeaseth them, I pray them also that they arret to the default of mine unconning, and not to my will, that would fain have said better, if I had conning, for the book saith, all that is written for our doctrine is written. Wherefore I beseech you meekly for the mercy of God, that ye pray for me, that God have mercy on me and forgive me my guilts, and namely my translations, and of inditing in worldly vanities, which I revoke in my retractions, as is the book of Troilus, the book also of Fame, the book of 25 Ladies, the book of the Duchess, the book of Saint Valentine's Day, and of the Parliament of Birds, the Tales of Canterbury, all those that zonen unto sin, the book of the Lion, and many other books, if they were in my mind or remembrance, and many a song, and many a lecherous lay, of the which Christ for his great mercy forgive me the sins. But of the translation of the Burke de Consolatione, and other books of consolation, and of legend of lives of saints, and homilies, and moralities, and devotion, that thank I our Lord Jesus Christ, and his mother, and all the saints in heaven, beseeching them that they from henceforth unto my life's end send me grace to bewail my guilts, and to study to the salvation of my soul, and grant me grace and space of very repentance, penitence, confession, and satisfaction, to do in this present life, through the benign grace of him that is King of kings and Priest of all priests, that bought us with his precious blood of his heart, so that I may be one of them at the day of doom that shall be saved. Quicam Patri Spiritu Sancto vivis et regnas Deus per omnia saecula. Amen. End of Prayers to Chaucer, and end of the Canterbury Tales by Geoffrey Chaucer, edited by D. Laing Purves. Recorded by Gesine in Valletta, March 2006.